serving all of South Jersey. This is 97.3 ESPN, home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
He is hit! He stumbles! He's down!
WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Mike Gill.
And a good Thursday, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Bash Live. I'm your host, Mike Gill. Josh Henning producing today's show. You out there, what a busy Thursday we've got for you today. Holy moly. We had a good one last night. If you stayed up late for the Western Conference play-in game, the Lakers, LeBron wins it. They are now the number 7 seed. They'll play Phoenix. The times for the Sixers games have been released. PGA is underway. And Phil's with a snoozer last night. Couldn't get anything going in that one. They lose to the Marlins 3-1. We got you covered here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, breaking it all down for you as we typically do. And, of course, you guys can be a part of the show, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973, the way that you can connect. And, of course, everybody talking about the LeBron shot last night was a 34-foot three-pointer with 58 seconds remaining, wins the game for the Lakers last night as they go on now, as we mentioned, to take on the number 2 seed Phoenix Suns. That is kind of, by the way, he hit the triple-double, game-winning 3, people talking about the ankle and whether or not he would be ready to go. Well, I think he answered those questions. And now, can you imagine if you're the Phoenix Suns? You're in this situation where you've played hard all year long. You haven't been in the playoffs in, 10 years for the Phoenix Suns, and you get stuck playing the champion Lakers, who basically are only in this spot because LeBron missed all those games. And then he comes back, 22 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals, a block, couple threes. The last one wins the game, 103-100. So now the Warriors will play tomorrow night, and you'll hear that game on 97.3 ESPN. They'll play Memphis, who beat the Spurs. Valanciunas had, 16 points, 15 rebounds at halftime last night, just dominated the game. Finished with 23 points and 23 rebounds. 3 blocks, by the way, for Giannis Valanciunas. And Memphis will be the opponent for the Warriors. The winner of that game tomorrow night will be the number 8 seed. They will play Utah. I got the schedule for the Sixers, by the way. Let me pull that up for you here. I got that. What the heck happened to that Sixers schedule? Oh, you know what? It's in my other email here. All right. I know they play Sunday at 1 o'clock. Sunday at 1, Sixers and either the Wizards or the Pacers, who they play tonight. Obviously, you can hear that game on 97.3 ESPN. So I got Sixers. Here's the schedule for the first round. So they're playing the early game on Sunday. We hit that. It's a 1 o'clock start for Sixers, Washington, or Indiana, whoever they play. Then they don't play Monday or Tuesday. They'll be off till Wednesday night. They'll play Wednesday night at 7 o'clock here on 97.3 ESPN. And then they'll play nothing Thursday, nothing Friday. They play Saturday, and that time TBD. Then they're off Sunday. They play Monday the 31st, which I believe is, Memorial Day. So Sixers, Sunday, Memorial Day, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. So it's this Sunday at 1 o'clock, Wednesday night game 2, game 3 on Saturday, Monday game 4, Wednesday game 5, Friday would be 6, and game 7, if needed, would be next Sunday. So that's your schedule for the Sixers in game 1 is this Sunday right here on 97.3 ESPN. The full schedule, it was so the Knicks are playing at 7, and the Lakers game against the Suns, we'll have that game for you Sunday right after the Sixers game. That game is a 3:30 Sunday tip. So that's what you're getting for your Sunday clock. All right. Sixers, Lakers, Knicks, and then if the Warriors get in, that would be the time that they play. They would play that late game. I think it's a 9:30 tip or 10 o'clock tip, something like that. So there you go. But the game last night, look, you finally got a good play-in game. The Warriors, Steph Curry's amazing, by the way. You know, people act like we don't like, I don't like Steph Curry. I think Steph Curry's awesome. I think Steph Curry's an amazing player. I think he's so much fun to watch. He's probably, you know, the fourth or fifth, sixth best player in the entire league. And when he's going and he's like he is, he's amazing. I mean, he's hitting shots last night that you're like, dude, they're not losing this game. He will not let them lose this game. Curry will not let them lose this game. The team is just not all that good, and it's amazing what he's done with them. So he gets all the credit in the world. He had 6 of 9 3-pointers. Imagine that. 6 of 9. 37 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, but he turned the ball over 6 times last night, just trying to do too much. Doesn't have all that much on his team. Draymond Green, I thought, was a big factor last night, played great defense. Wiggins even played pretty good. You know, Wiggins played a pretty good game last night. I mean, Andrew Wiggins is a guy who's so up and so down. I thought he played pretty well last night. Even Looney played a pretty good game last night. So they got a little bit of help. And who was the other guy? Poole, I think, had like 10 points. But they just could not overcome the fact that LeBron was just controlling the game. And that's the thing. Because Curry can just make these wild and crazy shots. And he gets so hot. 6 of 9 3-pointers is outrageous. Draymond Green, though, he missed all 5 of his shots, scores 2 points, but it shows you how, like, a guy like Green is so important. He has 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks, played incredible defense. And look, if you get that kind of Draymond Green in the first round on defense, they need someone else to help Curry out. You know, Wiggins last night, I thought played a pretty solid game for, you know, all things considering. But if he's your second scorer, it's going to be tough to see if the Warriors win the game. And that's a big if. I mean, this Memphis team is pretty good. People just write Memphis off like, it's Memphis. No, that Memphis team is pretty good. You know, they are pretty good. But if the Warriors get in, Utah has got an interesting situation there, having to play that Warriors team as the 8th seed. But if it's Memphis, not that they don't have a tough task there, because Memphis, you know, Morant, Valanciunas, I think, is very underrated. But you don't want to face Steph Curry in a 7-game series, and you saw why last night. He goes like that, 6 for 9 from 3 points, 37 points, 7 rebounds, 3. I mean, and we talked to Legler yesterday. The way you defend, you know, teams have been defending. They're going out to half court and making him get rid of the ball like right off the bat. And he's still figuring out ways to beat you. So that was a lot of fun last night. That game was everything that you wanted in the 1-game playoff, in the 1-game, whatever they're calling it. It's not a playoff, it's a play-in, whatever. That game was everything that you wanted in one of those one-off games. That's been the problem, is some of these one-off games, the teams, some of them don't even appear that, like Charlotte did not want to be there. Washington didn't seem all that interested. Now, we'll see Washington tonight. Legler talked about it yesterday. You know, Legler said yesterday on the show that we'll see right off the bat what Russell Westbrook brings to the table to see if he's invested, to see, you know, because he suggested what I suggested, that Washington did not have any interest in playing the Nets, and that they'll just say, look, we'll take our chances playing Indiana or Charlotte, and that we will play those games. We'll play that game and play Philadelphia. And if we don't, guess what? We were going to get knocked out by Brooklyn anyway, so we'll take our chances playing a 1-game playoff. And he said, watch Westbrook tonight and see how different he is in terms of his aggressiveness. So I'm interested in that. That game's tonight on 97.3 ESPN, because that's an interesting point. I said it on Tuesday. I'm like, you know, if you're the 7-8 game and you don't want to play Brooklyn, you just lose that game and then take your chances in the one-off against another team, which is a team, and Legler brought that up yesterday. You know, Washington has kind of owned Indiana. Westbrook has owned them. But the real playoffs haven't even started yet, and the Lakers' title defense has already survived a major scare last night. But in the end of kind of a discombobulated night, LeBron saying he couldn't see. There was 3 rims, and he shot for the one in the middle. He's going all Rocky on us. He hits the go-ahead three-pointer in the final minute of regulation. And what was it? Do you remember? Was it yesterday or the day before that he hit his first game-winning shot in a game? That was one of our Do You Remembers from the other day, is that LeBron hits a game-winning shot to win for the first time. I think it was against the Orlando Magic when he was playing for Cleveland. So here he is, 36 years old, and the old venerable LeBron James hits this three-pointer in the final minute of regulation to deliver this thrilling 103-100 victory over Golden State. It was that was what the NBA was hoping for. I know LeBron said whoever came up with this should be fired. I don't love it. I don't think it's done perfectly. I think they can tweak it and do some other things with it, no question. But again, here's the problem. You're having a play-in game. I don't like that the 7 and 8 seeds are involved in the play-in seed. They've already earned themselves. At least the 7 has. If you want to make it for the 8 seed to see who gets to be the 8 seed, but what are you going to do? Let the 8 and 9 and the 10 and the 11? You're going to go all the way back to the 11 and put them into the mix? So that's another problem. So I don't know exactly how to perfect it, but these one-off games, I don't think they lived up to the hype for the most part. I mean, for the most part, they did not live up to the hype. I mean, LeBron, that bounce pass he had early in the game, the pass to Caruso, cutting down the middle of the paint that cut the lead to 2. And then off that inbounds play, LeBron again to Kuzma. I mean, he had the passing of LeBron James. Then he dribble drives, takes one to the basket, fires one into the paint. With 1:01 left, catches on the Staples Center logo off the exit pass and hits that 3, fading away. I mean, he took a Curry shot there. But the passing last night, the one early in the game, AD's cutting down the lane. LeBron James, I think, is such an underrated passer. It's one of the things that at 36 years old, and when you watch a guy like Ben Simmons, Simmons is similar to what LeBron is. The difference is LeBron shoots. He shoots the 3. He'll shoot the ball. But Simmons is such when we try to figure out what Ben Simmons is, it's LeBron James without the shot. It's the size, it's the strength, it's the passing accuracy, the passing acumen, the ability to see the floor. And what you saw he had 22 points last night. Not a huge offensive night. If the Lakers are going to win a game, they need a big night from LeBron. He didn't have a big scoring night. He controlled that game passing the ball. That's what I took from that game last night, watching LeBron James. Yeah, he scores. He shot the big 3, and Ben Simmons is not going to shoot that big 3. He's just not. But everything else, the bounce pass, layup, bang. The entry pass. Caruso gives him the ball. Caruso cuts off the ball, and then, boom, layup. That's what the Sixers need from Ben Simmons in these playoffs. Just that inbounds pass, the little inbounds pass to Kuzma, catches it in the paint. That could be your Tobias Harris. Then he takes off the dribble, layup. None of this is done with a shot. The only shot he hits is the one, at times, and now he only shoots that up because the shot clock's winding down. But if you're watching that game last night, LeBron James, driving into the paint, dish to Anthony Davis. That's how, when I'm watching that game last night, I'm watching LeBron and saying, man, Ben Simmons can do a lot of this stuff. He can do a lot of this stuff. And I know you're saying, but he won't shoot. LeBron didn't shoot it all that much last night either. He will, and that's the one big difference. And it's a fair difference. It's a fair difference. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be saying that's a big difference. Difference is Ben Simmons, and this is where I agree with a lot of people out there, He can score 22 points a game, and he should be scoring. Ben Simmons should be averaging anywhere from 18 to 22 points a game. I don't disagree with that at all. The Lakers won a game last night in which LeBron James scored 22 points, right? The Lakers won a game, essentially a playoff game, that LeBron James scored 22 points. And if that's the case, the Sixers should be able to win games. Now, if you look at that box score, they only scored 103 points last night. So, that's a low-scoring NBA game for today's standards. Realistically, 103-100 is a low-scoring game. But when you look at that Laker box score last night, okay? You look at that box score from the Lakers side of things last night. You had big night from Anthony Davis, 25. There's your Joel Embiid points. LeBron with 22. That's where Ben can be the guy that scores in that range. After that, Caruso had 14 off the bench. Schroeder 12, Pope 10. See, the Sixers are going to be a little bit more well-distributed, I think, anyway, because you're going to get your 25 to 30 from Joel. That's the difference. LeBron scores 22. Ben scores 15 because the other guys score more. You're getting more from Tobias than Schroeder gave you at 12. You're going to get 18 from Tobias. So this is where people get so mad at Ben Simmons. I looked at LeBron last night and said, that's a Ben Simmons game. Other than the big 3 hits, now he shot 4 threes, he hit 2. That's the difference right there. But he got to the line 9 times. And if I'm watching that game last night and I'm Ben Simmons, I'm saying I can do every much as LeBron James did last night. And look, that's what this Sixers team is going to need. We talked about it yesterday with Legler. We talked about it yesterday with Legler. And we talked about just that. How are they going to defend Ben Simmons? And he said, I can't believe teams won't do this to defend Ben Simmons. Talking about sending, the double to him and making him, weak side stuff. Go listen to that full interview over at 97.3ESPN.com. But that game last night, that Lakers-Warriors game, that one finally got my, all right, that one wet my beak. I'm ready to go. Give me playoff basketball. It's all set right here on 97.3 ESPN. You got tonight, the last play-in game. The winner will play the Sixers on Sunday at 1 o'clock. But, see, I'm watching the game last night with that whole feeling of all right, LeBron, Curry. Now, Curry was fantastic. I've said that over and over. He was fantastic last night. But the game was controlled by LeBron. That's the difference. Curry scores all the points. LeBron controls the game. Other people score all the points. Ben Simmons controls the game. What did Doc Rivers say recently? Watch us play the 4 games without Ben Simmons. How'd that go? You need someone in the playoffs to control the pace and the tempo of the game. Steph Curry's great. 37 points is great. 6 of 9 from 3 is great. LeBron controlled the game last night. He controlled the pace. He controlled the game. And if the Sixers are going to make a deep run to the finals and even win this thing, that's what they're going to need. They're going to need the Ben Simmons that controls the pace and controls the game. Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Don't forget, you can download the app right to your phone. Use the Google Play or Apple Store, or go to 973ESPN.com/app. It's easy to do. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget, coming up later today, we got a busy show. Cam Rogers from the Believe Podcast Network, host of the Tiger Woods Pod, will join us to preview the PGA, which is underway. I love the PGA. It's a great, and we're going to talk about this with Cam. Big one for Rory. He won here, I think, in 2004, 12. He won here before. Longest course in PGA history, right here, right now. Little Jesus Jones reference for you. Right here, right now. Yep, right here, right now. This course is the longest course in PGA history. We will get some bets from him, who to play. We love prop swap, who to buy tickets for. And buy those tickets now and then prop swap them. That would be something that I'm looking forward to this weekend. You can prop swap the PGA. It is a perfect event to prop swap. And, of course, we tell you here all the time on the Sports Bash, get out there, prop swap these events and make a little side hustle money. Cam Rogers from the Believe Podcast Network, he's going to give you golfers to play, golfers to fade. So stick around for that at 3 o'clock. And, look, PGA this weekend, it's a busy Sunday. On Sunday, you got Sixers, right? At 1 o'clock. The Lakers, 3:30. And you can get right to the 18th green. Final round. Boom. Perfect day on Sunday. Sunday's going to be, it's going to feel like Father's Day, or, one of those Mother's Day, Father's Day Sundays where all the events are all just kind of streamlining into the other. All right, that's how we start today's show. Our friends at Prop Swap, make sure you prop swap this PGA Championship. PropSwap.com, where America buys and sells sports bets. America's sports betting marketplace. Get the best odds on the PGA Championship this weekend at PropSwap.com. All right, I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. When we come back, the Lakers and Golden State gave us a great one. We'll take a look back at the unbelievable moments of that game, because there was a lot, including that one moment, the LeBron and Steph go back and forth in this incredible play-in game. That was awesome. We got that. Frank Close is going to talk some Phillies in about 20 minutes from now. Cam, Keith Smith, and Todd Rank tonight at 5, because he was up late or early on the West Coast watching the Lakers and the Warriors. We got that all coming up on the Sports Bash. Stick around.
Turn it on. Leave it on. The Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
Attention, New Jersey. Matt Blatt Nissan needs to replenish their pre-owned inventory. They will buy your vehicle for cash today. You heard right. Matt Blatt Nissan will buy your current vehicle for cash or trade it for top dollar and put zero down payment, pay 0% interest, and get $2,500 off MSRP on every 2021 Nissan Murano in stock.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
All new loaded SV model 2021 Nissan Rogue. Lease just $239 per month with zero security deposit. Plus our fast track checkout. Bring any vehicle and Matt Blatt Nissan will buy it for cash or pay top dollar for any trade in Egg Harbor Township next to Home Depot or online at mattblattnissan.com. Dated equity will be refinanced into new vehicle. With qualifications exist. Not all will qualify. 0% APR financing based on 1667 2000 borrowed. Offers can be combined. Murano VIN MC 101371. Rogue VIN MW 011224. 36 months 10,000 miles for your lease. Lease selling price $28,590. Call 877-289-6670 or go to mattblattnissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 5/31/21. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
All right, Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN brought to you by Delaware Valley Acura Dealers for great deals on the Acura's award-winning lineup. Shop online at DelValAcuraDealers.com. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Don't forget, download the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. You can set up your alerts for your favorite teams or all four teams, even high school sports, Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, Eagles. Get them sent right to your phone when breaking news happens. Sports Bash gotcha. 97.3ESPN.com, our great team of insiders, which you will hear a lot of from, I should say, during this Sixers playoff run. Begin on Sunday against either the Pacers, who will travel to D.C. to face the Wizards for the 8th seed in the East and the right to play the Sixers in the first round. Washington won all three meetings with the Pacers this year, and two of those games were in May, so they have a pretty good familiarity with them. Russell Westbrook had a triple-double all three times that they played. And how about this? Sabonis averaged 32 points, 14 rebounds, and 9 assists in those games. So watch Westbrook and Sabonis tonight. That one should be a lot of fun. We talked with Legler yesterday about the possible opponents in these games for the Sixers. And he talked a little bit about, which team is a bigger, I don't want to say headache, or yes, the headache, I guess, is the question, the answer, the question that we kind of pose is which team provides more of a headache to the Sixers? Is it the Pacers or is it the Washington Wizards? We asked Tim Legler on Wednesday's edition of the Sports Bash, and he said this.
The Hornets gave up 3 uncontested dunks on baseline out of bounds plays. So that shows you where they were at last night mentally. So don't go by that game. The Sixers are the best perimeter defensive team in the league. They're going to play against Indiana. Indiana, without Karis LeVert, I think Indiana has a hard time getting to 100 points. So Indiana, I don't think gives them any trouble. Washington, with that backcourt, with the way that those two guys can get going, can control the game at the pace, yes, they could be a little bit of a problem. Philly will win the series, but I would not be shocked if Washington won a couple of games.
All right. Wouldn't be shocked if Washington won a couple of games. Indiana not going to give the Sixers any problem, which is interesting because the Sixers just played Indiana. Now, Embiid did not play in that game, as we know. But they just played Indiana. The Sixers lost to Indiana. And I thought even without Embiid, Indiana employed an interesting defensive strategy in that game. But Simmons was kind of out of it late, didn't play a lot in that fourth quarter. So I agree. I think the Pacers are just a very average team. The Warriors, I think, are a bad to average team. They just have both these teams are identical, 34 and 38 records. So neither one of these teams are anything special. But as we talked about yesterday, I think Paul Hudrick brought this up during Inside the Sixers. You need stars to win in the NBA playoffs. You need superstars. Washington has 2 of them. Indiana doesn't have any. Even if LeVert comes back and plays towards the end, they don't have any quote-unquote stars. I mean, Sabonis is an all-star. Bradley Beal is right there. Now, Bradley Beal's not the best player on the team that wins a championship, and I think Paul brought this up yesterday, that he obviously doesn't look like himself. But I don't want to take my chances with Beal or Westbrook combining to get hot at the same time. That's a disastrous situation for any team that has to face that team. But that being said, I would much rather take my chances with Indiana. I would much rather take my chances, play Indiana. You know, the matchups in that series are much more favorable for a couple of reasons. One, as I said, they don't really have that go-to guy. Their go-to guy in a situation is LeVert. He's not there, right? Their other guy in a big situation is obviously Sabonis. Sabonis and LeVert, you know, both of those guys, they're both very good players. So when I'm looking at the Indiana Pacers, let's look at them first here, okay, and kind of break them down and say, all right, what about them would worry me? The Indiana Pacers, they're one of the more consistent teams, right? They're very consistent with what they do. Hudrick talked about TJ Warren as well. They lost him. Only played like 4 games. LeVert, he's out. Miles Turner, he's out. I mean, they got a pretty solid team with what they got there. Now, without Turner, all of a sudden, they have no big man presence. So who's defending Embiid, right? Who's defending Embiid? From about early April to the end of the regular season, they were one of the worst defensive teams in the league because they don't have Turner. And before Turner, they were a top 10, right around top 10 defensive team in the league. So that's a big jump. Points in the paint against the Pacers went from 51 per game to 59 per game. So they don't stop anybody in the paint. Embiid in this series scores what? 35 a night? So if you are the Pacers, if you're the Sixers, you're looking at the Pacers and saying, who the hell's stopping Embiid? I got no answer for you. I mean, this is a team that with Miles Turner's injury and the whole coaching situation they got going on, I don't see how the Pacers can be a factor in a 7-game series against the Sixers. I just don't. The fact that they have no big man to speak of at all, major plus. Now, Sabonis, who, by the way, Sabonis is a tremendously unknown player. 20 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, right around there is his averages for the year. The only other players who ever have done that are Antetokounmpo, Julius Randle, Russell Westbrook, and Jokic. The problem with Sabonis is defense. When he's on the court, the Pacers are outscored by 2.1 points per 100 possessions. This is where the Sixers can really pick on him. So when we talk about a playoff game, series, why do we pick the Pacers over the Warriors? Defense. The Sixers play it, the Pacers don't. Sabonis, who is he defending? Probably Tobias Harris. It's a great series for Tobias Harris to kind of get off the ground, get that confidence going, make himself feel like, hey, I can be a big-time player in these moments. Nobody on that team, not one Pacer, none, can stick with Joel Embiid. They just simply can't do it, right? The other night they played the Hornets, and they dusted the Hornets because they shot the 3. Well, what did you just heard Legler say? The Sixers are the best perimeter defensive team in basketball. They're not going to let the Pacers shoot 16 of 35 from 3 in a 7-game series. They might shoot that one night. I'm not saying that they won't shoot the lights out one night maybe and steal a game. That's how they steal a game. But you got Sabonis, can't defend. Nobody in the they got not a center on that team, really. Bidays, he's going to sit there and defend Joel Embiid, right? Goga Bidays is going to defend Joel Embiid. That's your answer? Not happening. They're feisty. T.J. McConnell, Malcolm Brogdon, he's a tough, defend. Justin Holiday, another tough defender. Brissett, tough. They got some guys that grind, but a grinding team you should not be worried about. So I've been asked this question a lot. Oh, Pacers or Wizards? Who do you want? When I look at this up and do the research on this series and these two teams, when I'm getting ready to watch this game tonight, I got to be pulling for the Pacers. Like with everything I just broke down for you, right? You've got to say, Pacers, man. I want to play the Pacers. Now, if I'm looking for storylines and fun fodder for this show, you want to play the Warriors. They're a lot more fun to watch. They're a lot more, they generate more buzz with you guys. Oh, they got Beal. Oh, they got Westbrook. Worry brings ratings, right? When you guys get worried, we get irrational. We play Monday morning quarterback. Monday morning quarterback is the way to go. That's the way to more interest, more intrigue. Jason Fitz was on the show yesterday here on 97.3 ESPN, and we talked about it. The fact of the matter is this. The Sixers, if they play the Pacers or the Wizards, they are going to be a sizable favorite in the Eastern Conference. They just are. And as long as everything goes the way that it should, you're not, well, guess what? It doesn't matter. If the Heat win in round 1, the Bucks are out, and if the Bucks win in round one, the Heat are out. The only other team left is the Nets, and the way this is setting up right now, the Bucks versus Nets series, that would be on the other side of the bracket, playing the Pacers or the Wizards, and then the Knicks or the Hawks. This is the path to the NBA Finals.
Those two are going to get through a knockdown drag-out. I think that has the shot to be the best series we see through all of the playoffs in either conference. And then you come hobbling out of that series, and guess what? Now you get to play a physical Philly team that can take it to you. You're going to have another layer to get to it. I just don't know that a lot of teams will have that. The matchup favors Philly to go to the finals just because I believe we're going to see Brooklyn and Milwaukee beat the junk out of each other.
There you go. The matchup favors Philly to get to the finals because the other two sides are going to be beating each other up all the way to get here. And the way that you don't have to beat anybody up is to play the Pacers. That's why tonight we should be rooting for the Pacers in this game against the Wizards. And it's not, look, Beal's hamstring, not going to be 100%. I don't care. I don't need Bradley Beal feeling close to 100% at any point during a series. I don't need Russell Westbrook feeling like, hey, I'm feeling like I want to make my name for myself. I want to be the team, the 8 seed that knocks off the 1. I don't need that, right? None of us need that kind of feel because Westbrook feels slighted or Beal is starting to feel better. So, again, ask yourself tonight when you're watching. Look, they had Russell Westbrook in the offseason. The Wizards got off to a slow start. Westbrook, remember, had a lot of injuries. They didn't shoot the 3 well last night, but now they had some COVID problems as well. They played really well down the stretch. If they play as well as they did down the stretch, if they focus in a 7-game series, they have the stars. The Wizards, it's wild nights. You don't want to get into these wild back and forth nights where, hey, defense, the momentum of a game just gets thrown out the window. Westbrook, not a great shooter, but man, dynamic player, scorer, setting people up. Any season involved with him will be one that you're kind of sitting on the edge of your seat the whole time. They run a lot of isolation because they only really have 2 guys that can score, right? So as isolation, you got Simmons, very good one-on-one defender, but Westbrook's a tough matchup for him. The smaller, quicker guards sometimes give Ben some problems, especially guys that have good first steps. Who defends Bradley Beal? Again, I'm taking my chances with Indiana in this situation. And if you are the Sixers and you look at that, now they don't have a whole heck of a lot of depth, Washington, but Bertans is a guy that has been a problem for them in the past. Those wing stretches that can shoot the 3. So that's what I'm looking for tonight in that game. You can listen to it on 97.3 ESPN. That game at 7:30 is, I believe, the aim for that game here on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget, you can listen to the NBA playoffs and the Sixers. Sixers on Sunday, 1 o'clock, right here on 97.3 ESPN. I think most of you know, there's the alert. Boom, you just heard it in my ear, that I got the email from the 76ers with the update on the schedule. This is all the schedules that we got earlier today. We told you I will give those to you coming up in just a little bit. I'll go through the schedule so you guys can, of what we're airing and more. All right, when we come back, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app, which you can download, 97.3ESPN.com/app, and you can get that app right to your phone, set up the alerts the way you want them. Sixers game time set for Sunday. That is a 1 o'clock game. We told you that. Over on our website right now, 97.3ESPN.com, you get the Eagles 53-man roster prediction, and I will go through that a little bit later on in about an hour from now. But when we come back, Frank Close will talk a little Phils as they, they've gone through all sorts of roster moves. Jojo Romero, he's done. He was the guy who was
Turn it on. Leave it on. The Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
Bigger, better, Boardwalk, Boardwalk Honda.
You want it? Boardwalk Honda has it. Shop and save on over 600 of your favorite new, pre-owned, and certified pre-owned Hondas. Right now, lease a new 2021 Civic Sedan LX front-wheel drive for $169 a month for 36 months. That's right, just $169 a month. And don't miss our unrivaled selection of Accords, Civics, and CRVs. With one of the largest inventories you'll find anywhere. We have it all from store to shore. And we work with all credit situations. Boardwalk Honda partners with over 25 top financial lenders, so we'll help you get approved and on the road in your new Honda in no time. Plus, we'll buy your vehicle. Any make, model, or year, we're paying top dollar. Your new Honda's waiting for you at Boardwalk Honda. Visit Boardwalk Honda today, located in Egg Harbor Township, or shop online at boardwalkhonda.com. And remember, from Maine to Miami, nobody beats a Boardwalk deal. Boardwalk Honda. Call us toll-free at 844-890-3390 for more details.
Mega Millions is giving you 515 million reasons to take a chance. That's a whole lot of millions. In Jersey, one mega chance could be all it takes. So take a chance on Mega Millions, because anything can happen in Jersey.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Sports Bash Live, ESPN, on a Thursday show. We just did a little Do You Remember, which included a couple of playoff events. The PGA Tour is this weekend, the PGA Championship, I should say, which has gotten off to an intro. My boy, Roy, Ricky Fowler is involved. Whenever Ricky's involved, I always like those tournaments. He's my guy. And, of course, we talked to Cam Rogers earlier in the show. He said, yeah, I think he might stick around. But right now, the PGA, the Masters, golf in general, tournament-style stuff, all sports, really. This hour of the show is brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com or download it. So, Luke, what's going on, man?
Hey, Mike. How are you?
All good, bud. And, so many times I get people asking me so much about prop swap. You were at my house a couple of weeks ago for the Derby, and people were asking you, I hear prop swap. So I think it's time to really long-form talk about how my listeners can benefit from your business, Prop Swap, which is just I love it. I know more people using it all the time. But the PGA this weekend, let's talk a little bit about, all right, you got the leaderboard. That thing constantly keeps changing. How our listeners can really utilize Prop Swap for the PGA Championship this weekend.
Yeah. So the first kind of misconception that people hear is, well, I'm buying a sports betting ticket and I live in New Jersey, but maybe the seller lives or Mississippi. Like, how can I buy a ticket on a Thursday and then sell it on a Saturday, right? They think that they're like actually getting the ticket in the mail. No. As soon as you buy that ticket, that's now Prop Swap's job to go get the ticket from the seller. So if you buy a ticket on a Thursday afternoon, say you got, Colin Morikawa at 30-1 odds, you buy a ticket on Prop Swap, you can sell that immediately. You can sell it on a Friday. You can sell it on Saturday. As soon as you purchase that ticket, you're able to relist that bet for sale and sell it to someone else. That now becomes our job to go get the ticket from the seller. So don't worry about that. Your job is, if you want to sell your Morikawa ticket or Spieth ticket or Ricky Fowler ticket, they're doing well, you can do that with a click of a button.
So in other words, let's just kind of break it down for people. You live in Galloway. You go into one of the brick and mortar sports books. You walk right up to that counter right now after you and I had this conversation. Hey, I heard Mike and Luke talking, and I like Ricky Fowler. He's in the mix. I'm going to go to Borgata, Ocean, Tropicana, one of their sports books. I buy Ricky Fowler. I can now go to propswap.com, post that ticket, and ask for anything I want as he kind of goes up the leaderboard. So if he's 10th at the end of the day, and on Saturday, he's now in second, you locked in the odds of him being in the 10th spot, and now you can upcharge someone else anywhere in the country for that Ricky Fowler ticket.
Yes, exactly. So, if he goes for easy numbers, say Ricky goes from 50-1 odds to 10-1 odds, he's now 5 times as likely to win, right? So if you bet $100, you list it for sale for 500, and that will sell. If you price it at market value, which is what that is, it will sell. We have far more buyers than we do sellers. And the reason is we're legal in a bunch of different states that don't have sports betting yet. California, prime example, Massachusetts, Ohio, these huge states filled with tons of sports bettors are just yearning for sports betting, and PropSwap is a legal way to fulfill, that demand. So if you post your betting ticket from any casino here in New Jersey, it will sell. If you price it fairly, we do not have a buying problem on PropSwap. We will get that ticket sold for you.
Okay, I think we got the Sixers. A lot of people in this area are Sixers fans, but I think a point that you've brought up before, and let's really explain to the people. Here in Jersey, where a lot of Sixers fans live, you're not going to get the same odds on the Sixers as you might at a state that has legal sports betting someplace else. So you can go and get a ticket on the Sixers in another state at probably better odds than you can when you walk into Ocean, Tropicana, Borgata, Golden Nugget, and any other Atlantic City casino.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly right. So I always tell people, if you're betting on your local team, whether it's with a bookie, at the sports book, on an app, you are most likely not getting the best number because there's regional biases, right? Everyone in New Jersey and Philadelphia bets on the Sixers, the Eagles, the Phillies, a lot of New York sports teams as well. So by betting locally and not checking PropSwap, you're getting a worse number. So whether it's the Sixers or, we've been selling Eagles tickets from Vegas, like Nevada and Mississippi always are going to have better numbers on the Sixers and any local team because they don't have, I can't blame the local sports books for not hanging fair odds on the Sixers. Everyone's betting the Sixers. They would get killed if they offered a fair number on Philly. So I understand it from the sportsbook's perspective, but from the gambler's perspective, you got to check PropSwap because we're giving you access to all these other states' numbers.
Right now, 15-2, Philadelphia odds to win the NBA championship. So if you buy that ticket now and then the Sixers are in the Eastern Conference Finals, that number is inevitably going to be better. But you buy that ticket now, you lock in the 15-2 number, and you can sell that at PropSwap. And Luke, as you said, you don't have a problem finding sellers. People are perusing your site all the time because you guys have the best odds in the country. So the NBA playoffs is great because you can find, hey, there's a team now, Miami Heat, 35-1. If they do what they did last year and you have the 35-1 ticket and they're in the finals, you could post that at PropSwap and you're going to get people that live in that Miami area saying they're all excited about the Heat. I want to buy that Heat ticket and you have it at 35-1. That's where you really cash in.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly right. People that live in legal sports betting states could be making so much money. We had two different guys in 2020, two different PropSwap customers, each sold $100,000 worth of tickets last year. And that was in a year with 4.5 months of no sports, right? From March almost, through July, we had no sports. These two individuals each made six figures just by posting tickets on PropSwap.
All right, Luke Burgandy, PropSwap.com. Download the PropSwap app. And obviously, we this NBA playoffs is a great time to do it. You can really gamble on it tonight. If you buy the Golden State Warriors play-in 66-1, if they win this game tonight, those odds should probably even creep up a little bit. So you can even get involved on a game like the play-in game tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which, by the way, is tomorrow. The Eastern Conference games tonight, but the Golden State game, they're 66-1. And that's a team that I think people think if they get in, they can maybe win a series. So if you lock them in at 66-1 and they upset the Jazz in round number 1, that's where you can make some big money.
That's right. Yep. The Warriors are a really interesting pick. They're hot. Buying them now, then selling it if they can beat the Jazz, you'll make double, triple your money. The Miami Heat, like you said, if they can upset Milwaukee, they're about 40-1 odds. You can flip that on PropSwap if they get that up. And then the Phoenix Suns. I mean, what do you do with this team? They're obviously a dog in the series to the Los Angeles Lakers. Is LeBron healthy? Is AD healthy? That seems like they look pretty good on Wednesday night, but I don't know. Now we have, LeBron complaining 75 times in his post-game interview about his eye. Is that actually an injury? Is he just hyping that up to, get him some more fame, if you will? I don't know. But the Suns at 30-1 odds, which is what you can buy them at right now. If they can knock off the Lakers, my goodness, they become a really legitimate contender.
All right. And also, we know PropSwap is great for the NFL, and we've talked a little bit about it, but, MVP, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, all those future type of prop bets, you can buy them now. So find your favorite rookie that you like that you don't think's getting enough love, or they even have odds right now for the first pick in the draft next year. Spencer Rattler is the favorite there. Sam Howell, 7-2. These are bets you could buy now, kind of put them in your nightstand, and then boom, post them when draft time comes around. Joe Burrow is not going to be the first pick in the draft. So you can find a couple guys, if you're a college football fan out there, that you think, hey, this guy's not getting enough love. I think he can be in contention. So futures football, it's a great time to get that right now.
Yep. The Eagles right now are 85-1 to win the Super Bowl. I love that. I'm not necessarily saying the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. We're probably not with, Jalen in his first full season, but 85-1. In a NFC East where if the Cowboys going to be legit this year, I mean, Dak just simply can't stay in the field. The Zeke, old news. Obviously, the Washington football team, I'm not super concerned about them. The Giants will be creeping towards average, but in a division that is clearly not an elite one, to get the Birds at 85-1 odds right now, I think that's a great number.
All right, Luke Brigandi, PropSwap.com. Download the PropSwap app, and, of course, get out there and start prop swapping for the PGA Championship, the NBA playoffs, and anything else that you think that you have a little beat on. So we'll keep our eye on the PGA board, the NBA playoffs tonight on 97.3 ESPN. The Sixers on Sunday. That game is at 1 o'clock. You can hear it on 97.3 ESPN, followed by the Lakers and Suns at 3:30. Luke Brigandi is the co-founder of PropSwap and the PropSwap app, and he was kind enough to join us here on the Boardwalk Honda hotline to give us a little insight on how you can prop swap this PGA Championship. Thank you, Luke.
Thanks, Mike. Have a good weekend.
And this hour of the show, of course, is brought to you by our friends over at PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today. All right, when we come back next hour here on the Sports Bash, my buddy Todd Rank, it's the Rank Report. We'll get his reaction from L.A. He's out in L.A. He was there last night. Lakers, Warriors. He'll talk about it with us in the Rank Report coming up next.
Attention, New Jersey. Matt Blatt Nissan needs to replenish their pre-owned inventory. They will buy your vehicle for cash today. You heard right. Matt Blatt Nissan will buy your current vehicle for cash or trade it for top dollar and put zero down payment, pay 0% interest, and get $2,500 off MSRP on every 2021 Nissan Murano in stock.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
All new loaded SV model 2021 Nissan Rogue. Lease just $239 per month with zero security deposit. Plus our fast track checkout. Bring any vehicle and Matt Blatt Nissan will buy it for cash or pay top dollar for any trade in Egg Harbor Township next to Home Depot or online at mattblattnissan.com. We will be refinanced into new vehicle. With qualifications exist. Not all will qualify. 0% APR financing based on 1667 per thousand borrowed. Offers can be combined. Murano VIN MC 101371. Rogue VIN MW 011224. 36 months, 10,000 miles for your lease. Lease selling price $28,590. Call 877-289-6670 or go to mattblattnissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 5/31/21. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
South Jersey's home of the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
I am the voice of the voiceless.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Now, live inside the Matt Blatt Kia Studios, here's Mike Gill.
All right, everybody, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, 3 o'clock hour of the Bash. It is brought to you by Jenkins. Call Jenkins for heating and air conditioning installation service and maintenance, plumbing or drain cleaning service. 609-641-6440 or JenkinsPlumbingHeating.com. Cam Rogers is back from the Believe Podcast Network. He's the host of the Believe in the Tiger Woods podcast, and he, like all guests, appears via the Boardwalk Honda Hotline as we have the PGA happening now, happening all weekend long, and this is this is a great event. It feels like, all right, we had the Masters back to normal, but this one feels like we're really back into the heart of the golf season. Cam, what's going on?
Hey, Mike, great to be with you as always, my friend. Yes, it is very exciting this week to have the PGA Championship back in May. It all feels right. The vaccines are rolling. We have the mask mandates being lifted. Things seem to be coming back to normal. So it really should be a fantastic week of golf. And Mike, by the way, we will see some big-time crowds this weekend, so expect a lot of electricity come Sunday evening.
Yeah, that's the cool part. Like, the Masters was back in its normal spot, but it didn't have that roar like we know. We might see that back here. Let's start here, Cam. This is the scene of Rory McIlroy's kind of prime here, but this has not been easy for him. But this is a familiar spot, and this is a familiar tournament for him, and I feel like, as you do and know Tiger very well with the Believe in the Tiger podcast, he's not here. They don't really have that identifiable guy. Rory's probably one of the most identifiable if you're in my age bracket, because there's a lot of younger guys that maybe some younger fans know, but Rory is kind of like, I'm 44, so he's like, okay, there's not Tiger. Phil's kind of, get to the end. Rory's kind of that guy. So, talk a little bit about him and what this tournament looks like for him.
Yeah, Rory McIlroy is the betting favorite, and no surprise there. Recently won at the Wells Fargo Championship, and Rory was in a bit of a rut, Mike, for a while. It was his first win in a year and a half, and for a normal PGA Tour golfer, that's a pretty short amount of time. But for McIlroy, that's a long time. We're talking about a guy who has win equity every single week. He tees it up. And of course, he won this tournament back in 2012 at the Ocean Course. So he's got the course history check. He's got the recent form check. The betting favorite pressure. We'll see how that goes against him, if at all, for Rory McIlroy this week. Look, it's really hard to win on the PGA Tour, right? It's even harder to go back to back. So for McIlroy, it's going to be a tall task. We'll see what happens for him this week. He's a premier driver of the golf ball. We know what he can do with his irons, and he can get red hot with his putter. And again, he knows this course very well. I actually challenge your listeners to go back and look at that leaderboard from back in 2012 at the PGA Championship. It's a long course here at the Ocean Course, but after McIlroy, inside that top 10, a lot of grinders, short game guys, putters, international guys as well. It could be a mixed bag on this leaderboard this weekend. All
right, so the Ocean Course here, very blustery. It's very windy out, as we know here on the Thursday. But, this is an interesting spot. McIlroy won a second major in a row and a fourth in his first 24 professional golf attempts. So, I mean, he seemed like he was going to be the next, big thing. And it's not that he hasn't been the next big thing, but where is he at in his career? Because I feel, again, like with no Tiger, somebody's trying to grab that. Is he that guy? Who is that guy? Who are some of the guys this weekend that can maybe kind of jump out? Because, as we know at the Masters, there wasn't that, definitive guy who jumped out with a star quality about them.
Well, here's the deal, Mike. It's not 2004 anymore. Back then, it was Tiger, Phil, VJ, a little bit of Jim Furyk, little bit of David Toms here and there, and that was really it. But now you have such an immense talent pool on the PGA Tour. McIlroy, Koepka, Johnson, Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa, who is the defending PGA champion here, Daniel Berger, Hideki Matsuyama, who just won the Masters. So the talent pool is so much deeper now than it was, say, in the early 2000s when it was Tiger and a collection of other guys winning every single week. So for somebody like McIlroy, it's going to be hard for him to be that quote-unquote next Tiger Woods, even at this phase of his career, because you have Jordan Spieth playing really well right now, Justin Thomas, Mr. Bryson DeChambeau, who is the content king out there on the PGA Tour. So I think, to answer your question about who's going to be that guy, it's going to be a hybrid approach. Everybody's going to chip in with this. We're going to have a lot of big time winners for the next few years on the PGA Tour because of the talent pool. But if I were to pick somebody to be that guy again, I think it could be Jordan Spieth because he has resurrected his game.
All right, Cam Rogers with us here, the PGA. He's the host of the Tiger Woods pod on the Believe Podcast Network. All right, let's talk about the course. Give us a little insight on this course and who it sets up nicely for.
Yeah, so it's the longest course in major championship history, nearly 7,900 yards on the scorecard, par 72, 200 yards longer than the 2012 version of the Ocean Course. It's what's called an American Link style course, which essentially means the course is fully exposed, no tree lines, all right? So it's all about the wind. We'll track the wind as we go throughout the weekend here, but it can be really unpredictable. And essentially, the wind is the only defense of this course. If there's no wind, there are going to be ideal scoring conditions throughout the week here. If there is wind, we could see a winning score somewhere around the lines of 6 under, 7 under par, because there could be as much of an 8-club difference depending on the wind here at this course. We're talking about Tony Finau hitting a 4-iron off a par 3. He's probably never done that in his life. So I think it's going to be a really unpredictable week, if you will. And again, look back at that 2012 leaderboard. Also look back at the 2015 U.S. Open and the 2017 U.S. Open. Both of those venues, the longest in major championship history at the time. But here's the thing. The Bombers weren't at the top of those leaderboards either. We're talking about international guys like Cam Smith. I like him a lot this week, Mike. Victor Hovland is my pick to win. And other grinders out there like a Louis Oosthuizen should pan out well this week. I like Victor Hovland because both of his wins have been on what is called paspalum grass. What are we playing on this week? Paspalum grass.
There you go. You're only getting that from Cam here on the Sports Bash. PGA this weekend. You gave your outright pick. We'll get to that again at the end because I want you to remind everybody, because people out there listening might not know who you're talking about, but they might know who Spieth is, and Jordan Spieth going for the Grand Slam here. Why do you think this is not the course for him?
Well, I think Jordan Spieth should pan out fairly well this week in terms of the stats, Mike. If you look at the spreadsheets and the numbers on paper, everything points to Jordan Spieth. If you go back to January of 2021, he is the best player in the world, and it's not even close in terms of strokes gained total. So it's all there. I mean, his iron game is elite. We know what he can do with his putter. He's got a great short game. He bleeds some strokes here and there with his driver, but that's okay because he can save himself hole in and hole out. The only thing that goes against Jordan Spieth, he's going for the career Grand Slam. A lot of PGA Tour golfers have hung on 3. Just ask Phil Mickelson with all of those runners-up finishes at the U.S. Open, right? So it's about in between the ears here for Jordan Spieth. Can he get it done and fight off all of the headlines, the pressure, everybody talking about him? McIlroy has tried it many a times at the Masters, hasn't done it yet. We'll see if Spieth can do it this week. All
right. These are 3 guys that most people listening are going to want to be watching and zone in on this weekend. Bryson, Brooks Koepka, DJ. High or low on those guys? How you feeling?
How about low on all 3, all right? I'm off all 3 of them this week. I'll start with the obvious one, Brooks Koepka. I mean, I don't know what's going on with his knee, but I'll tell you what, he's not 100%. If you're not 100% at a major championship, I'm sorry, you're not going to play well. And so I'm off Brooks Koepka. He's coming off a missed cut at the Byron Nelson, missed the cut at the Masters as well. You know, I'm staying away from him in my betting circles and my fantasy golf circles right now. Dustin Johnson, his recent form really isn't there. He's the number 1 player in the world, all right? He can pop and win anywhere. I totally get that. But in terms of his recent play, the irons aren't really there, which are typically pretty good for him. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. Maybe he finds it and he wins. And trust me, he's done that. He's gone 80 in a tournament before and then won the next week. He did it at the Travelers Championship. And then finally, Bryson. Look, I think this course should be perfect for Bryson DeChambeau, but that was the argument last week at the Byron Nelson too, and he didn't play well. Like, his driver was great, but everything else, he was losing strokes to the field, approaches, short game, putter. So it's like Bryson finished like T41 or something like that in a very weak field on a very easy course, and we're just going to expect him to figure it out this week at a PGA Championship. I don't see it. So I think Bryson is tinkering with some things right now, and we might have to play a wait-and-see approach for him this week. So I'm off Bryson, I'm off Brooks, I'm off DJ, and that could come back to bite me.
Yeah, big, cojones out of you there, putting all the big names in the back. Nobody puts Baby Brooks, DJ, and in the corner over there, but Cam Rogers is. All right, now let's go back to your pick to win. Actually, before we do that, give us a couple value guys before you tell us who you are picking to win this again, because Prop Swap is one of our great sponsors here. This is a great tournament if you're a prop swap guy. So give us some names that you might want to buy that ticket now. And if they do really well, you could sell that ticket on prop swap. So who are some value names, Cam, that you like that could be in the mix all weekend long?
Yes. Here's how I'm handicapping this week, Mike. Grinders, short game magicians, good putters. I think, honestly, everybody is going to miss greens this week. The wind will be a factor. The length will be a factor. Everybody essentially is in the same bucket, right? So it becomes a chip off and a putt off. And who actually has the advantage there? How about top Great Britain / Ireland player, Shane Lowry, plus 1,500 to get that done. He's a grinder, obviously the reigning Open champion. He knows link style courses, so I like that for some value. Rest of world player is Louis Oosthuizen for me, plus 1,400 to get that done. The best putter on the PGA Tour right now, has a premier short game. He has popped at major championships before. Of course, he is a major champion, winning at the Open Championship. So as you can tell here, Mike, I'm going with the international guys. How top Englishman Matthew Fitzpatrick, plus 550, the ultimate grinder, fantastic driver of the golf ball, really good putter too. Coming off a miscut, honestly, it's okay to me. Shorter week, rest up a bit, get ready for a major championship. Fitzpatrick is a good play. And then finally, for a top 40, I found a good view here. Matt Kuchar. I mean, he has been so good lately, and he sort of has resurrected his career a bit. 4 top 20s in his last 5 starts. I mean, plus 200 for a top 40. Give me that all day long. Tied for Chambers Bay back in 2016 at Hills. 2 big boy courses, but yet Matt's not a big boy driver of the golf ball. He's a grinder, so it works out well. I like him too.
All right, so you've got the longest course in major history, grinders, short game guys, and you said go back to the 12 leaderboard. Check that thing out here. So you mentioned earlier, by the way, you're fading Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau, Dustin Johnson. So those are names that you're not looking at. And you have a winner that a lot of people out there might be saying, wait, what? So tell us who and why.
Yeah. Mr. Victor Hovland, 22-1 going into the week to win the PGA Championship. I mentioned the pass, palm, grass fact. That's number 1. Number 2, third in strokes gained off the tee within the last 24 rounds. 3rd in ball striking. He's 4th in strokes gained tee to green going back to January. Really consistent ball striker, top 10 in birdies or better as well. You know, it was Colin Morikawa's coming out party back at TPC Harding Park at the PGA Championship. It could be the case here for Victor Hovland at Kiowa Islands Ocean Course. He has been so consistent. By the way, has never missed a cut at a major championship. He was low AM at the Masters back in 2019, low AM at the US Open back in 2019. You want to talk about a grinder? This guy can do it. He can hang with the best of them. Give me Victor to win it all.
Okay, real quick, because Ricky Fowler was always my guy. He got off to a good start. He was -2 early in the morning. So can Fowler hang around? I felt like 3 or 4 years ago, he was in the top 5 in everything and has just vanished. Got off to a decent start in the morning, but can he be around on Sunday?
Absolutely. You know, one thing we have learned about golf, you have your peaks and valleys, right, Mike? Rory went through a little bit of a valley, then won at the Wells Fargo Championship. Jordan Spieth was lost. I mean, absolutely lost on the PGA Tour. And all of a sudden, he's the best iron player in the world, wins at the Valero Texas Open. So Ricky Fowler is a talented guy. You may recall back in 2014, he was in the top 10 in every single major championship. He has been there. He has done that. He can totally resurrect his game. We've seen it with other guys on the PGA Tour. I think if his iron game is there, I think if his putter gets hot, he can absolutely be a factor this weekend. Didn't get a lot of chatter, Mike, going into this week. Maybe that's a good thing. Fly under the radar a little bit. be a factor here at the Ocean Course.
Hasn't got a lot of chatter in a while, man. My man, everybody who listens know that I for a while there, I was picking Fowler to win almost everything because he was right there and has not done well the last 2 years. What was that, 3 years ago that he was in the top 5? Either 3 or 4 years ago, he was right there and has almost vanished off the tour list. But he'll be a guy. He got off to a good start this morning. He was 2 under through 9. So we'll see if he can find that stroke through the weekend here. All right, Cam Rogers is with us here, the National Golf Contributor, host of the Tiger Woods Pod on the Believe Podcast Networks. And all right, it's going to be a great PGA Tour Championship weekend, and hopefully it gives us a great Sunday. Everybody, we got the Sixers at 1:00, the Lakers at 3. So that should take you right up to the final hole of the PGA Championship. So you got a busy Sunday for everybody.
There you go.
And Cam broke it all down for us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Cam Rogers, everybody. Cam, we appreciate it as always, man.
Always fun, my friend. Talk to you soon.
All right. Cam Rogers, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. And, of course, when we come back, we will get into the Sixers and the NBA. Keith Smith from Yahoo Sports joins me to talk a little NBA hoops coming up next.
Turn it on. Leave it on. The Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. On 97.3 ESPN.
All right, everybody, the playoffs continue tonight. Well, I should say the play-ins continue tonight. You got Pacers, Wizards. The winner will face the Sixers. We'll break that down which opponent's better. I gave you my reasoning earlier. Keith Smith covers the NBA for Yahoo Sports. He will join me in just a second to break that down here on the Sports Bash. I want to remind you, Sports Bash brought to you by Matt Blatt Nissan. The all-new Matt Blatt Nissan is now open on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township next to Home Depot. Online, mattblattnissan.com. All right, Keith, these play-in games have been, we got two decent ones. We got one really good one last night. The Grizzlies game was a good one. You know, it was okay. Two teams at whatever. But tonight we got Pacers and Wizards. But first, your assessment of the Lakers-Warriors from last night and now what this means for the two teams in the West that will face, well, we don't know the other team yet, but the poor Suns getting stuck facing the Lakers. I'm sure they're thinking, we haven't been in the playoffs in 10 years, and this is the thanks we get?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the rough part. I had thrown it out there to the world last night. Who is rooting more for the Warriors? Warriors fans or Suns fans? Because I think, the Suns want to be, want to have that nice, ease into the playoffs and get after it, and they're just not going to. That game last was just a real phenomenal basketball game. You had all sorts of playmaking on both sides. Your best players, stars were making plays. You saw it play almost like a Game 7 in a playoffs where it was a lot of where we're not going to let runs get away from us. We're going to call a timeout. We're going to make adjustments. We're going to make, changes. We're going to do all these things. And I think, we were, really rewarded as NBA fans for hanging in there. It's been a really tough season. And I said last night, if the playoffs anywhere near as that one was, then we're in for a treat.
Yeah, and obviously LeBron hits that shot. I mean, he does that because the shot clock's winding down. But I was impressed. I talked about this earlier, Keith, where I watched LeBron last night. He had 22 points, had a triple-double, but the difference is, like, Curry had an unbelievable game. He shot the lights out, but LeBron really controlled the pace of that game, right? I mean, the way and the passing. And I'm watching saying, man, if Ben Simmons just watched this guy, the way he controlled it, he didn't shoot a lot of jumpers. He hits the big three, hit another three. Ben's not going to do that. But the way he controls the pace of that game last night, I thought that was the big difference, him controlling the pace against Curry going bananas.
Yeah, that was LeBron in it wasn't a must-win situation, but he played it like it was. And we've seen this now for, a decade plus, going almost on 2 decades now of him. When it's a big game, you get him the ball, and it's going to be played the style he wants it to be played at. He's going to speed it up when he wants to speed it up. He's going to slow it down when he wants to slow it down. It's just going to run through him, and he's going to make plays. And he's going to do it. And, we saw that all on display last night. That, it's really remarkable that this many years into his career, the mileage he has on him, he's still able to bring that, when it's really needed. That's just incredible.
Yep, and obviously they'll play the Suns, and we'll have that game for you on Sunday, right after the Sixers and whoever their opponent will be on 97.3 ESPN. So let's go there. Pacers, Wizards tonight. I said earlier, if you're a Sixer fan, you are rooting for the Pacers, right? You want to play the Pacers in round 1 over the Wizards.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's something to be said for Domantas Sabonis and his craft and how well he plays, that maybe he can get Joel Embiid in foul trouble, and that can kind of equalize things. But that is the extreme thing that you need if the Pacers to even make that series competitive. If it's the Wizards, it's just a pain in the neck to deal with Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal, a couple of their other guys. They've got a lot of big bodies that they'll throw at Embiid, a lot of fouls that they'll use on him. They're basically going to tell Alex Len, beat him up for the first 5 minutes of each half, and then they'll go to work with Gafford and Lopez off the bench, and it's just a much more difficult series. And if Bradley Beal gets going, which he did kind of as that playing game in Boston went on, if he can really get going and get that hamstring feeling good, he can almost win a game by himself. Westbrook could win a game by himself. All of a sudden, then you're in a series that you didn't really expect to be in. So, yeah, you'd much rather see a beat up and depleted Pacers team.
Yeah, and then, these two teams, it's funny. We had Tim Legler on yesterday talking about this very topic, and he said, I mentioned on Wednesday that, hey, if you're the Wizards or Boston for that matter, I don't know that you were all that excited about playing the Nets. Washington didn't appear all that excited to play the Nets. And he said, look at what they've done against the Pacers this month. They beat them twice. Westbrook's averaged a triple-double. So you saw Westbrook early, didn't seem all that invested in the game. Let's see what he comes out looks like tonight. But do you think the Wizards kind of have in their mind, hey, we didn't beat the Celtics, but we know we can get the Pacers?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there was moments where you had both Boston and Washington in that game where it's like, all right, are they kind of gaming this out where, all right, we see you in the first round and maybe have a puncher's chance or no ball's chance, get him versus the Nets. That's just going to be such a difficult matchup for either one of those teams. And so, yeah, I think Washington is looking at it now too. All right, once it got away from them in the second half against Boston, you saw Scott Brooks really start to manage his rotation. Then he waved the white flag very, with a lot of time left in the game. There's about 4.5 minutes to go. And he said, no, we're just getting into that because I think they knew, all right, hey, we can get that Pacers team. We've got that cushion. That's why you wanted to be the 8th seed so that you had a little bit of that cushion if you lost. And now they've got to be feeling good about their chances.
Yeah, that game, of course, is tonight on 97.3 ESPN. And you can hear it here. The Sixers will play Sunday at 1 against the winner of that game. Let's take a look at some of the other matchups that we do now know, Keith. And let's go with the Eastern Conference side of things because we know that it will be Brooklyn and Boston. And Boston, you get 50 burger. You can try to win a game, but how many times can Tatum dial up that night? That's probably the only way they can steal a game in this series, let alone win it.
Yeah, they would need Tatum to play, out of his mind. You'd need him to pull up prime Michael Jordan, to stay in, have a chance of winning the series. And on top of that, you need Kemba Walker to, step up and deliver as well. Now, they can get a game, maybe even 2 games up the Nets. I think best chance is to get one early. The Nets have played in a little while. It's going to take the Nets a little bit because they haven't played together much as a group all season. It's going to take them a little bit of their footing. So if Boston comes out on fire in game 1, you see them maybe feeling that. But that's, again, you're looking for them to talk yourself into it when all the logic tells you this is going to be Nets probably in 5. I think Boston's good enough to get at least one. I'll give that respect to their guys. But really, easy move through the first round for Brooklyn.
Yeah, I like Brooklyn, if not a sweep, just 5 in that one there because, we'll see. I think they want to come out and have that thing like everyone's saying we haven't played together. Everybody's questioning us. Watch how fast we dispose of a team that's made the playoffs 7 straight years. That game Saturday night, 8 o'clock. They'll play Saturday, Tuesday, Friday, Sunday. That's the 4 games there. Let's go to the one, Milwaukee. Everybody thought they were sneaky. They haven't been the 1 seed this year. Now they're the 3. They get stuck playing Miami. Was this a horrible, the worst case situation, or do you think Milwaukee shouldn't have trouble with the Heat?
Yeah, it's certainly not great for Milwaukee. But on the flip side, you could look at it and say, all right, we can exercise Simmons. And if you can beat the Heat and you could even beat them kind of convincingly, all of a sudden you're riding high going into a second round matchup likely with Nets. And that is, I think what you're trying to sell if you're the Bucks. I've maintained all season long that the Bucks took a lot of short-term losses this year for hopefully long-term games. They're more versatile on both ends of the floor. Their personnel is better. They're just better equipped to go at that Miami team. Miami's got that been there, done that, mentality, and they're a very good team as well. I worry. Were they a real byproduct of the bubble where they locked in better than just about any other team had? Are they going to be able to have that this year playing in hostile environments and those kind of things? Well, that's going to be one where I think we'll know pretty early on in this series. If the Bucks win the first couple, feeling pretty good. If they lose one of those two, lose both, they're in a lot of.
Yeah, I know you make a great point about the bubble. There was no crowd. You had a young team. Nobody had the home court advantage last year. Milwaukee's in this situation. I'll tell you what, Milwaukee's path, they're going to earn it to beat the defending Eastern Conference champions, likely the Nets, and then most likely the Sixers, and then win another game. Finishing 3 this year was not a admirable or a task that anybody would ask for.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, it is brutal. That's why it was so important for Philadelphia to get that one lead. It's not much about the home court advantage. It's that it is good. That's great, but it's about not having to play both Brooklyn and Milwaukee. They're now set up to only have to go through one. This is one where I really had to say if Philadelphia can't get to the conference finals this season, then it really starts to where, all right, well, what do you got to do? Because it might not happen then. If they can't figure out this year to get that conference finals, this path is just set up so well for them, and that's a really troubling thing if they can't get it done.
All right, we're talking with Keith Smith, Yahoo Sports. The NBA playoff schedules are out. New York and Atlanta, that's the 4-5. The Sixers, if they win their first round series, they would face this one. This is the old 90s styles Knicks against this young, high-flying, Trae Young. A lot of fun to watch Atlanta. This should be a very interesting series between two teams who don't have a lot of playoff pedigree in the recent past.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a really good conference styles. The Knicks, they want to play it a little slower. They want to beat you up. They're going to focus on the defense. And then the Hawks, they don't fly up and down the court, but they want to play a little faster than New York does, and they want to score points. They want to make it into an offensive game. So it's going to be almost a pull here, whose style wins out. I'm a little bit nervous for the Knicks only because their offense is so heavily dependent on Julius Randle. And even teams that aren't great defensive teams like Atlanta, when they have the ability to game plan for one player, they know they're going to see him 4 to 7 times over a week period. You can really build to slow them down, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on the Knicks. RJ Barrett has to step up. Derrick Rose has to step up, and then they've got to find something from somebody else. And it's probably the next best guy to create offense is the rookie Emmanuel quickly. So you're getting down to it if you're the Knicks. If Julius Randle isn't getting it done, the Hawks, they got all sorts of weapons that they can find scoring from. And it's really hard to slow down Trae Young because you just can't send doubles at him the way that build out their offense with shooters all around him.
All right, we'll get some quick thoughts from Keith on the West here. Clippers, Dallas, that game on Saturday at 4:30 here on 97.3 ESPN. Clippers wanted this matchup.
Yeah, they did. It's all going to come down to Kristaps Porzingis. If he plays well and looks really good, the Mavericks have a chance. If not, it's just Luke has to do too much by himself. I think the Clippers have a lot of defenders they're going to run at Luka. They're going to do a lot of things. They'll probably do what they did last year and beat him up. And, every time he goes into the paint, they're going to drop him to the floor. And, we'll see. But, yeah, I feel pretty good about the Clippers advancing in that one.
All right. And then tomorrow it's Golden State, Memphis. Who you got?
Golden State, I like the Grizzlies. I think they're way ahead of schedule, but I'm not going to pick against Steph in the Warriors, especially at home. I think they'll pull that one out, and that'll put them in there against the Jazz. It's a little bit for the Jazz fans. You got to have also a little bit of PTSD from what's happened, but those aren't those Warriors more. They don't have it at that level. I think Utah, the quality of their defense and their offensive play will overwhelm the Warriors in the end. But I do think we're going to see Steph back in the playoffs, and I'll take that because once he's in there, there's always a chance something special happens.
Yeah, Utah, of course, they're the 1 seed. And look, Donovan Mitchell hasn't played in 4 or 5 weeks. So for him just to roll back out there and it's like, hey, Steph Curry's here, that's not an enviable task either. So there you go. Sunday night, 9:30, Utah. Probably Golden State, although I feel like Memphis is just one of those teams, not you, Keith, but the fans out there don't know much about them. They don't get a lot of exposure. Valanciunas 23 and 23. They got Morant, who's a great, great scorer. They just have a lot of young players. I like that Memphis team. They're a team that's on the arrow pointing up. So don't be surprised if they beat the Golden State Warriors, who really, I thought Green played great last night defensively, but didn't help him out a lick on offense. So if he doesn't play as well defensively, that could be interesting. That game should be fun tomorrow night here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, he's Keith Smith, Yahoo Sports, at Keith Smith NBA, and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline, breaking it down for us here on the Sports Bash. Keith, we always appreciate it, man. Looking forward to talking playoffs with you throughout.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to breaking down what
Keith Smith, everybody, here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, coming up, Thanks to Keith for joining us as well as always. When we come back, my 53-man roster prediction for the Eagles. You can go check it out now at 973ESPN.com, but I'll break it down, the entire 53-man as I see it today. Now, that could change, but these are the guys I got to pick from. So check it out on our website now, 973ESPN.com. And when we come back, I'll give you that. I'll give you the times for the playoff games that I got as well. And don't forget, Kaplan at 4. Do you remember? It's all here on the Sports Bash.
Turn it on. Leave it on. The Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
Attention, New Jersey. Matt Blatt Nissan needs to replenish their pre-owned inventory. They will buy your vehicle for cash today. You heard right. Matt Blatt Nissan will buy your current vehicle for cash or trade it for top dollar and put zero down payment, pay 0% interest, and get $2,500 off MSRP on every 2021 Nissan Murano in stock.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
All new loaded SV model 2021 Nissan Rogue. Lease just $239 per month with 0 security deposit. Plus our fast track checkout. Bring any vehicle and Matt Blatt Nissan will buy it for cash or pay top dollar for any trade in Egg Harbor Township next to Home Depot or online at mattblattnissan.com. David Beckley will be refinanced into new vehicle. Qualifications exist. Not all will qualify. 0% APR financing based on 1667 2000 borrowed. Offers can be combined. Murano VIN MC 101371. Rogue VIN MW 011224. 36 months 10,000 miles for your lease. Lease selling price $28,590. Call 877-289-6670 or go to mattblattnissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 5/31/21. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
To the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Good stuff from Keith Smith. As you know, the NBA playoffs, they continue tonight with the play-in games. You can listen to them here on 97.3 ESPN. Also, real quick, I did get the schedule earlier today for the Saturday games. You are getting, let's see, Saturday you will get 2 o'clock is the Miami-Milwaukee game. The Brooklyn-Boston game is at 8 on Saturday. 4:30, Clippers and Dallas. You can hear that game on 97.3 ESPN. And then Denver-Portland's 10:30. On Sunday, you've got Golden State. You got Golden State or Memphis, whoever wins that game tonight, playing Utah. That's going to be 9:30. Phoenix-Lakers is going to be 3:30. That'll be right here on 97.3 ESPN. As soon as the Sixers game's done, we'll take you to that game. Also on Sunday, it is the Knicks and Hawks at 7 o'clock on TNT, and then the Sixers game is a TNT game at 1 o'clock. You know, the Sixers game on Wednesday night is 7 o'clock on NBA TV. That's a little disrespect to the 1 seed, don't you think? Hey, here you go. Got a game, NBA TV. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. So Keith Smith, great from him. Looking forward to talking more NBA with him throughout these playoffs, which should be a lot of fun. But coming up, Adam Kaplan has football at 4. I want to get into my way too early 53-man roster projection for this Eagles. And you can go check it out now at 97.3ESPN.com. I popped this up the other day. And, all right, the all-season's moving along. First minicamp rookies in the book. Here's my first crack at this 53-man roster. Now, I've talked yesterday with Moshe about the lack of, and we talked about it with Jeff Kerr, about the lack of competition for starting jobs and whether that's good or bad. Because I look at this thing and say, I look all over and say, we keep hearing competition, and I'm not knocking Sirianni. I like the message. His message is competition. But where's the competition? I only see 2, really 3. Left tackle, there's competition. Maybe. I mean, a lot of people think Mailata's going to win that job, that they want him to win that job, and that Dillard can't win that job. And the other spot is corner. Who's going to be the starting corner? And that might not even be a competition if they sign a guy. So let me go through my 53-man roster. And let me know where you agree, disagree. Who am I missing? Who am I leaving out? 609-403-0973. Quarterback, I got 2, Hurts and Flacco. And, they got the kid, Jamie Newman. He might make the practice squad. So 2, Hurts and Flacco. We know that. Running back, I got 4. Miles Sanders, Kerryon Johnson, Jordan Howard, Kenneth Gainwell. This is interesting. With Sanders likely to get most of the touches, the interesting question will be how the team uses the rest of the backs in the offense. You got Kerryon Johnson. He's a big back. Howard is a short yardage guy, too. They both are goal line guys. Gainwell could be used as a third-round back and adds a kind of a change of pace type player. Catches the ball out of the backfield. So my thing would be Boston Scott, if you want to keep Scott and Gainwell, or Johnson and Howard. And I think they go Johnson and Howard because if Sanders got hurt, Johnson and Howard could be more every down backs than Boston Scott can be. And Gainwell would be the Boston Scott. So I think Gainwell knocks Scott off this roster. But if they keep 2 kind of third down backs, then you got Scott and Gainwell, and then Johnson and Howard are battling for 1 spot. So I got 4 running backs. All right, I got 6 receivers. Here they go. Smith, Rieger, they're the locks. But the rest of them, I think the battle for the rest of the spots, this is where the competition comes in. Fulgham and Ward, I think, have a leg up on the competition. And then I'll give J.J. Arcega-Whiteside another look with Sirianni getting a chance to work with him. And I think Hightower edges out Watkins because he's a deep threat. So is Watkins, by the way. But I think Hightower is probably the more polished guy at this stage. He's bigger, too. He's like 6'2". If the Eagles elect to go with more speed, then Watkins could knock out Arcega-Whiteside. But I'll go Smith, Rieger, Fulgham, Ward, J.J., Hightower, Watkins to the practice squad, and probably Grimes to the practice squad. Now, Arcega-Whiteside is obviously the lightning rod there. Some people want him gone. Some people are saying, hey, he can't play. I'm telling you, and we talked about this with Moshe yesterday, I'm telling you that the coaching staff is going to give him another shot. I mean, he has multiple competitions. We talked about it yesterday with Moshe during football at 4. This is the J.J. Arcega-Whiteside situation.
It's been hypothesized by some, and I can see it, that he might be even better in the slot, where he's closer to the ball. He's not a downfield weapon. The problem is the Eagles already have a fairly reliable slot receiver in Greg Ward, who's not explosive and not going to give you much downfield. So you would like J.J. Arcega to really shine at the X position, but they have guys there. I mean, Devontae can play some X. Jalen Reagor can play some X. Travis Fulgham
can play some X. All right, so that's where Fulgham's interesting. I mean, JJ's interesting. Is he a slot guy? Do they just say, hey, you're a slot guy now? Play in the slot, and we get a big-bodied slot guy. And look, that could be an attractive thing to have J.J. Arcega-Whiteside playing in the slot like that. That could be kind of like what they did with Nelson Aguilar. Where did Nelson excel? They moved him to the slot. So I'm not writing him off. He makes my receivers, but I think it's a very competitive group. Tight end, Dallas Goedert will take over as the team's top pass-catching tight end. Zach Ertz, likely done. Richard Rodgers, he's not currently on the roster, but I'll pencil him in. I think they bring him back. No one else has signed him by now. But I think Rodgers, they might have a kind of a wink handshake. Hey, wait till Ertz is gone. We'll bring you back. You'll be our number 2 tight end. And I don't have a problem with that. And then the competition for the 3 spot, I think this one's interesting. Butler, Hakeem Butler. Remember, they traded for him last year. A former wide receiver, 6'5". Remember, they threw that pass to him late in the year. They threw like a fade pass to him. Big-bodied red zone target if they want to use him. Kind of a wide receiver hybrid. If they want to go to a blocking tight end, there's an undrafted kid from Nebraska, Jack Stoll. He's a dark horse, I guess. So it depends on what they want from the 3rd tight end. A blocking guy or a kind of receiving athletic guy. So I'll go Butler for now, but I think that's up for grabs. I think Goddard, Rodgers, Butler. So the 3rd tight end spot up for grabs. The wide receiver spot all up for grabs. The 4th running back spot up for grabs. Offensive line, I got 9. Now, I wrote this before the move yesterday, but I don't think LaRaven Clark's going to be ready to start the year on the team. So it doesn't affect it too much. But Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks, Jordan Mailata, Isaac Seumalo, Jason Kelsey, that's 5. Dillard, 6. Herbig, 7. Dickerson, 8. Driscoll, 9. That's my guys right there. Here's Jeff Mosher yesterday on Football at 4. He talked about the left tackle situation and how that 9 guys could be affected.
It may not have to be a battle if the GM himself even recognizes that maybe the pick wasn't the best pick, or that if the GM himself can say, hey, the guy I picked 2 years prior in the 7th round is now going to be our starting left tackle. So that's a feather in my cap as well. And I'm talking about Jordan Mailata there. So I don't know that ego is really going to get in the way here. I think value is the question. I just don't know if Howie Roseman's going to flip him for a 6th rounder just to get him off the roster. You know, I think there's enough question marks so that it's hard to get a first or I would think a first or a second back in return, or the same kind of currency you put in.
All right. So that was Moshe yesterday talking about the whole left tackle situation with Dillard, because I have him included on this roster. Now, yesterday they brought in LaRaven Clark. So with Johnson and Brooks set to return, Kelsey, Seumalo, Johnson, Brooks. The Eagles have one of the better offensive lines in football if they stay healthy. The battle is at tackle with Mailata, I guess, a slight favorite over Dillard. Clark that's entered into that situation makes Dillard expendable in trade. Now, you just heard what Mosher said there. What are they getting for him? Does Roseman still have, hey, I drafted this guy in the 1st round. I want him to make the team. All that factors in. If Dickerson is healthy and ready to play, he backs up at both guards and center. You got Herbig and Driscoll. They both got a lot of time last year. They both play guard and tackle. Well, Herbig plays guard. Driscoll plays both. So those 2 guys, I think, make it. The Clark thing's interesting because if you keep Clark, you could possibly trade Dillard. So all of that, the offensive line, you talk about competition. I don't think there's competition for starting jobs, but there's definitely competition at the backup. Now, keep in mind, Dillard doesn't really play right tackle. He only plays 1 tackle spot. He doesn't play special teams, so all that factors in. So keep all that in mind. So that's the offensive line. I think that offensive line thing's interesting because Dickerson, too. Is Dickerson in a competition with Seumalo? Do they want to upgrade the Seumalo spot? Do they think, hey, he's just a good player, not a great player, and Dickerson can be an all-pro player? I say all-pro. I'm just saying that that could be the ceiling for him. I don't think the ceiling for Jordan Mailata, Isaac Seumalo, is all-pro. It's maybe, borderline Pro Bowler, which isn't bad. I mean, I don't think Seumalo stinks by any stretch. He's a solid player. But do they think Dickerson's better than him? All right, so that's my offensive line. Let me go to D-line. I got 10 here. Now, this is interesting. Graham, Barnett, Sweat, Kerrigan, Fletcher, Hargrave, Milton Williams, Marlon Tupultu, Taron Jackson, and Patrick Johnson. Now, I kept the two rookies. Now, Patrick Johnson's kind of a hybrid edge player, but this is a very thin but talented group. Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave, that's an excellent duo, but very young behind those two, right? I think you might have two rookies playing tackle behind them, and Milton Williams is a little small. So somebody asked me the other day, who's the Bo Allen of that group? Well, that's your 6th-round pick from USC, Marlon Tupultu, right? He's the kind of the Bo Allen of that group, the run stuffer. Graham, Barnett, Sweat, Kerrigan, they're locks. But after those 4, very inexperienced. Of the 10 defensive linemen here, 4 of them are rookies. And I don't think Taron Jackson and Patrick Johnson are locks to make the team, but I'm going to put them there because they don't really have a lot. It's not like they have these veteran players or these young, there's not like you had, Deshaun Hall, like a third-year guy. Those guys aren't really here. On the interior defensive line, you do have Hassan Ridgeway and T.Y. McGill. So one of them can maybe, but I don't think they're going to cut Milton Williams. He's a 3rd-round pick. I know they're not going to cut Milton Williams. How about that? And I don't think Tupultu is going to be a guy they want to get rid of either. They've been talking about, we had a much higher grade on him. So that's why I don't see Hassan Ridgeway and T.Y. McGill. And I don't think you keep 5 defensive tackles. The only thing I could see is if Milton Williams, they look at as a both. If they say Milton Williams is an end, like a Vinnie Curry or a Malik Jackson, which is possible. But do they want to give up on Jackson and Johnson to keep Ridgeway and McGill? I think if they kept one over the other, would be Ridgeway over McGill. All right, let me go to linebacker because this is another interesting one. Eric Wilson, Alex Singleton, Davion Taylor, Sean Bradley, Jannard Avery. And this one's a little bit, because Wilson and Singleton are going to start. Taylor, 3rd-round pick, he's making the team. The team traded a 4th-round pick for Avery. That's where I'm torn on what to do with him. He's a pass rushing specialist. He's moving from end to linebacker. So I'm going to keep Avery for that reason. The 4th-round pick reason. The last spot, I'm going to go with Bradley. He's a special teams guy, good tackler, and they drafted him over TJ Edwards, who started last year. Now, Edwards is tough. He's a very one-dimensional linebacker. That's the problem. He's a very one-dimensional linebacker, and I'm not 100% sure what kind of line. I don't know how the Eagles are going to utilize their linebackers, right? I don't know how they're going to, are they going to be more athletic linebackers, coverage? TJ Edwards is not a coverage linebacker. That's the problem there. That's why I have him not making the team over Sean Bradley. So I got 5 there. All right, let me go to my defensive backs. I got 11. And these guys all stink, except for 1. 2. Really 3. There's 3 players in this backfield. Slay, Harris, and McLeod. Just don't know what McLeod you're getting with the injuries. Harris is a player. Did not play well last year. I think that was more circumstance. I think with this defensive line, Harris will be a lot better. You're going to see a pretty good Anthony Harris this year. My prediction, anyway. Because he's got to have better defensive line play in front of him. Last year, the Vikings' defensive front was banged up. They were a mess. Harris is one of the best safeties in football 2 years ago. Go check out their defensive front a couple of years ago. Get back to me on that. So 11, here we go. Slay, Maddox, Harris, McLeod, James, McPherson, Adams, who they signed from Tampa. He's more of a special teams guy. Wallace, Jacoby Stevens, Josiah Scott, Marcus Epps. Not all that exciting, is it? Josiah Scott knocked out Michael Jacquet. Now, Jacoby Stevens is kind of I put him at safety, but he could probably go into the linebacking core as well. So that would be an extra guy at linebacker, but I put him at safety for the purposes of this roster. That doesn't matter because he's still one guy. Marcus Epps, another special teams guy, plays some safety. But let's say this. This is a spot that will definitively change between now and the start of the season. And if it doesn't, we're in for a long year on that other corner spot. Right now, Maddox is the incumbent. He struggled outside. He's better suited in the slot. That we know. The team invested a 4th-round pick on McPherson. I don't think, from anybody I've talked to, it's doubtful he'll start or be ready to start on the outside. That doesn't mean he won't. Right? Doesn't mean he won't, but it's doubtful that he's ready to start. Key, ready. Doesn't mean he won't. Just put that out there for you. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, and then the last special teams. It's Elliott. The punter is a kid named Aaron Sipos right now. That doesn't mean that he's going to be the punter, but he's the only punter they got. Rick Lovato. So there you go. You can check out that full conversation over at 973ESPN.com. That full article, I should say. We just had the conversation here on the Sports Bash. All right, coming up, Adam Kaplan going to talk a little bit more about the Eagles, that 40-man roster, some of the battles, some of the things that happened this week. I can tell you this, all right? This is what I know. Adam Kaplan, Football at 4. Nick Sirianni, he called the veterans and they decided to report, right? But he'll have the details on the kind of the compromise there. They will have 3 weeks of OTA practices, but with the following conditions. Adam has the details coming up. All the transactions from the week. We'll get Adam's take on the Kerrigan deal, what it means. LaRaven Clark, how he fits in. Josiah Scott, why they made that deal. Nate Meters, what does that say? All right? We'll have the details with Adam Kaplan for Football at 4 coming up here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. This hour of the Sports Bash sponsored by JCPenney. Hurry, the lowest prices of the season are back at JCPenney, and there's no coupon needed. Shop now through Sunday only at JCPenney's. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN.
Mega Millions is giving you 515 million reasons to take a chance. That's a whole lot of millions. In Jersey, one mega chance could be all it takes. So take a chance on Mega Millions, because anything can happen in Jersey.
South Jersey's home for the Sixers and Flyers.
Yeah!
He scores!
A two-hand jam!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. 97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Adam Kaplan.
I have real confidence that our football operations can once again create a dominant football team.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on Football at 4 on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, the latest edition of the Inside the Birds podcast dropped this morning. Adam Kaplan, Jeff Mosher. Also, we should be following the Inside the Birds podcast all week because, as Adam can testify to, that Jason Avant, Quentin Michael podcast from Wednesday might have been one of the greatest episodes of all time. Adam, how you doing on this Thursday?
Good to talk to you, Josh. Yeah, it was incredible. The Terrell Owens story, first of all, you have to hear Quentin Michael talk about the Terrell Owens story because I kind of lived that one in that a lot of us who covered the team then found out about it. And Jeff Mosher and I talked about it. It was actually Jeff's first year covering the Eagles. It was in 05. And that 05 season, Josh, was one of the most bizarre that I could remember in covering this team and covering any team, quite frankly. We talk about sort of the relationships players have with each other and infighting and so forth. But the McNabb-Owens saga, and then Hugh Douglas and Owens, you have to hear it. And then also Jason Avant's story with Steve Smith. I'm not going to give it away. It's ridiculously funny because I didn't know it was coming. I just knew that I knew he was going to talk about it. But wait to hear that one. Those guys are incredible, and we've learned so much from them, and we appreciate having them as partners here.
Yeah, it drops every Wednesday, part of the Inside the Birds podcasting network. Speaking of relationships, Adam, to me, the biggest news of the week, you guys talked about this morning on the Inside the Birds pod, Nick Sirianni connected with the veterans. The veterans are at the NovaCare. Let's get into this because to me, this is a huge deal. I mean, talk about getting off the ground started. Nick Sirianni basically, according to your report, reached out and said, hey, guys, how can we make this work?
Yeah, I got to give the guy credit. This is the exact opposite of what I thought would have happened because remember, we can only go by what the players said. They put a statement out back in April that they were not going to report to OTAs at all. They would only come to the mandatory camp in mid-June. And Sirianni reached out to the veterans and said, hey, listen, what do you think of this? They went back and forth. It was a negotiation, a discussion of what would work for both sides. And Sirianni got what he wanted. He's going to have the non-mandatory OTAs with the veterans. The ones that are going to show up are going to show up. And there's some guys who are not showing up. Right now, Zach Ertz has not showed up. But there will be no mandatory camp, which is only 3 days. So the way I look at it is you're trading in 3 days for 3 weeks. I think you take the 3 weeks of Nick Sirianni, and I give him credit. This is a pretty solid showing of leadership. And also, yes, he wanted them to practice. He wants to see his new players. And this is a big move for him. I would agree with your assessment. This is a pretty good start that he's getting off to here.
So let's help people understand the details. So this week is phase 2. What exactly does that include, and why is that important this week?
Yeah, so there are no 7-on-7, no 11-on-11, which we would see if we were allowed to go. We're not as the media, but what typically what we would see would be 7-on-7 probably by the second week of OTAs. You're going to see 7-on-7 and 11-on-11. Well, we're not getting any of that. They're not. This is part of the negotiation that the players wanted. They don't want team drills. They'll do individual drills. They're going to in classroom teaching. They're going to go over schemes. They're going to get their strength and conditioning on. The big thing that Sirianni and his coaches are going to be stressing, and then obviously Sirianni is the head coach, is fundamentals. This is something that he talks about to his players and his coaches. They coach it, and they're going to coach it hard. This is a big deal for them. And this is what happens when you take over a team. I'm not saying Sirianni notice this specifically, but the Eagles were an error-prone team. Part of being 4-11-1, Josh, is not just the roster wasn't good enough. That's part of it. But they had a lot of mental errors. Route running for the receivers was not great. Defensively, they had a lot of breakdowns, particularly in the secondary. Now, we could argue that some of the corners were not very good. That's true. But this is a team that was not really good with fundamentals. And maybe the Phillies could learn a little bit about the fundamentals of football.
Yeah, absolutely. When Sirianni kept saying fundamentals and technique the other day, Adam, all I kept thinking about was, who that reminds me of? It reminds me of some of the best coaches in the league. Belichick, Tomlin, Andy Reid. I mean, Brian Flores down in Miami. These guys, they care so much about the details of the game. And honestly, it's refreshing to hear Sirianni say that.
Yeah, it sounded like Doug Peterson didn't talk about it before, but I don't remember him, and I have to go back to 2016, 5 years ago, and see exactly what he said when he first got the job. But this guy's not backed off. And I could tell you a couple other things just to add behind the scenes is that he's very big on connecting with his players, and he made it kind of a requirement that his assistants do the same thing. It's not that they're friends off the field. It's just that they get to know each other and know what the expectations are. And you want to do this when you start. You don't want to start doing this 4 years later. And this part of, I think, the breakdown with Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson is Peterson left it to his top two lieutenants in terms of coaching the quarterback, was Frank Reich and John DeFilippo. And once those guys left, Peterson didn't know him very well. And I think that was part of why Wentz and Peterson in the end failed. It's because they just didn't have an understanding of each other. And this is a good thing that Sirianni requires his coaches, as I understand it, to connect with his players. It's a good thing.
Adam, you and Moshe have mentioned multiple times on the Inside the Birds podcast about the issue of coaching the coaches. And it sounds like that Sirianni's falling into that mold a little better than Peterson was, that he is very specific with his coaches.
I got to give you credit, Josh, because we haven't talked about that probably since last season. So you clearly listen to our show. We appreciate that. You're right. It's something I actually first heard Ron Jaworski say years ago, and I didn't quite understand what he meant, and Jaws would explain it, is that you can't just leave your coaches to coach without evaluating them as they go. And Sirianni actually talked about that when he was asked last week about competition. I know it's a buzzword with coaches. They all use that, Josh. But one of the things is he's going to manage his coaches. You can't just roll the coaches out there and expect them to do well on their own. You don't have to micromanage them, but you have to manage them. You don't want to wait till something becomes bad where maybe this coach is not teaching it the way you want it done. Andy Reid would hand off to Marty Mornhinweg many years ago when they were both with the Eagles. When things were not going well, he would hand off to Marty to have Marty run the offense. And Joe Benner actually told us this. This was crazy. I'd never even heard this before. He told us this on Inside the Birds TV last summer. He just dropped that on us. And we never heard that before, that Andy would – we only thought it happened a couple times. He said it happened all the time. When Andy was not comfortable with something, he'd say, Marty, take over. This needs to get fixed or changed or adjusted. So that's just being a good head coach. I understand Sirianni is not coaching the game yet. We understand that. But just from doing the things that you want to hear and saying it the right way and knowing behind the scenes what I've heard, he's off to a good start.
Adam Kaplan, NFL insider, co-host of the Inside the Birds podcast. Newest episode dropped this morning at Kaplan NFL on Twitter, here on Football at 4 on 97.3 ESPN. Adam, let's get to the transactions of the week. Obviously, the one that I was shocked when it happened, when I woke up to this. Ryan Kerrigan. I mean, Ryan Kerrigan of all people. I mean, this is a fascinating move. I mean, it's obviously a good move because obviously you take somebody away from someone else in your division, but man, talk about going from 0 to 100 here.
Yeah, this is it's funny. Kerrigan was talking about that with John Clark from CSN Philly, or whatever they're called, NBC Sports Philadelphia. In his interview with John, he talked about how they kept it quiet. No, the Eagles more or less broke. Kerrigan put it on his Instagram. It's funny. He hasn't posted on Twitter in a long time, but he put it on IG. And this is look. He's on a 1-year deal. It's a low end deal. I know, knowing the Eagles and the way they think, kind of like with Chris Long, if he plays well this season in his role, as a pass rusher, that's really the way they're going to use him, as a pass rusher, whether he's standing up with his hand in the dirt. That's what they brought him in to do, rush the passer. When he plays linebacker, he stands up. They're not going to ask him to cover very much. He's a pass rusher. He's 32 years old, and this guy's really good football player. The Eagles know him unfortunately too well. And I like in the Eagles press release, you can tell Howie Roseman, the GM who signed him, he's pretty happy to have this guy not be with Washington. I think the Eagles would tell you that they're happy to get him out of there.
Yeah, he has the tie for the most sacks versus any team is against the Eagles, 13.5 sacks, them and the Cowboys. By the way, 13 against the Giants too, not bad either. So now considering though, Adam, he came from a team that played him in a lot of different ways. His hand was in the dirt. He stood up. They used him in a variety of ways. So is that kind of the expectation here that the Eagles say, hey, this guy is kind of a jack of all trades here?
Yes. And in fact, Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator, he didn't really go. He was only asked about Kerrigan once in his 28-minute media briefing, which I heard earlier. And he said he likes his versatility. Well, you just nailed it on the versatility. That's exactly what he was. As a matter of fact, Kerrigan will line up more as a linebacker technically in his career than defensive end. But think of him as a pass rusher. So when we see him this fall, or when the media gets to see him in training camp, you're going to see him standing up. You're going to see him play with a hand on the ground. He'll rotate at defensive end for sure, because they're going to need him there as the fourth end. But there'll be ways to use him. They may line him up as a left defensive end or right defensive end, obviously stand-up linebacker. And even when he plays on the strong side, think of him as a pass rusher. Don't think of him as a linebacker. Technically, he will be, but he's going to be a pass rusher. And this is a big signing for them, a little bit bigger than I anticipated. He definitely, by the way, before we move on to the next player, he has plenty left in the tank. The problem is last season, they made a decision. They were going to go with the 2 first-round picks. That's just going to happen. That's why it's not his fault. In consecutive drafts, they drafted DNs. That's the way it is.
Yeah, you mentioned Gannon. I wrote down some of the key words he used for the things he looks for his players: mean, motor, smart. And I feel like Kerrigan kind of like checks all 3 of those boxes for Gannon's what he wants from his players.
Yeah, and he's a better athlete than he's been given credit for. High motor guy, high character, would be great for the locker room. In a team that's clearly in transition, as the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, said, this is the kind of guy you want. Like Chris Long, when the Eagles signed him, they had no idea they would be this good, as good as they would turn out to be. Particularly in 2017, they just didn't. They were just looking for veteran leadership. And the thing about that roster, if you look at all of the smart veterans that they brought in, LeGarrette Blount had changed his career around, who had issues off the field for many years, and he got himself together, Josh. And you just look at him coming in there, Torrey Smith, guys like that. Just the veterans would come in. Rodney McLeod came in at 16. Vinnie Curry coming back. All these guys would come in and fortify their locker room, and a guy like Ryan Kerrigan will do the same thing.
Adam Kaplan, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast at Kaplan NFL on Twitter. Adam, staying on the defensive side of the ball, Josiah Scott is the newest cornerback here in Philadelphia. What is the latest on him, and why did they bring him in? Yeah,
so what the Eagles were looking for, Josh, is they were looking for players that they had fairly decent grades on. When I say grades, each draft pick, each player that's graded for the draft is going to have anywhere from 4 grades to 10 grades turned in by the area scout, the scouting director, assistant scouting director, general manager, personnel director, over-the-top scout, national scout, whoever. So they had good grades on him. And as we understand it, they're going to start him out at outside corner. He could definitely play inside because he did play both in college at Michigan State. And this is a guy that this is what you do. You general managers at this time of year, after the draft, look at guys who are better on depth charts. Josiah Scott was not going to make the Jaguars. At best, he would have been their 5th corner. He's not long. The general manager, Trent Baalke of the Jaguars, came from the Niners. They like longer corners. Scott's arms are less than 30 inches. That is short for a corner. You like to have 31 at corner, as I understand it. So, okay. But he makes it up for smarts, toughness, and athleticism. And we'll see. He needs to make the roster. He's not be given anything. We'll see how it works out. But he's another in the mix guy for a backup job.
Couple of the moves this week, Adam, that have significance, maybe not in terms of their name, but in terms of where they come from. LaRaven Clark, the offensive lineman, Nate Meters, the defensive back. More of these ties to the Colts, to the Vikings, Sirianni, Gannon, getting guys that have familiarity with who they are and what they want to do.
Yeah, so Josh, let's start with LaRaven Clark, a former 3rd rounder of the Colts in 2016. He's got exactly what they want in a swing tackle. Plus, he's played guard. Now, he's a little bit too long to play guard, but he's done it. He is 6'5", over 6'5", long arms, over 36-inch arms, which is extremely long for a tackle. Generally, you're looking for 33 or 30. You like to have 34 if you can get it, and he's got over that. But he doesn't always play to the kind of strength that you want. He's not if he could get over that Achilles injury, the Achilles surgery, he had torn Achilles in first week of December. If he could get back by August and show that he could actually play this season, he'll be the top backup tackle and guard, top backup left tackle and right tackle. I don't know about guard, but left tackle and right tackle. That's what their hope is, but they're not going to know until they get there. It's when you come back from a torn Achilles, it's not the death knell that used to be 20 years ago, but it does take some time to come back. You could come back within 7 months. That doesn't mean he's going to be right physically. You just got to see how he is, and the hope is he gets on grass there in training camp or by the end of it and see what happens.
So now we have a total of Marcus Epps, Anthony Harris, Eric Wilson, Nate Meters, Craig James from the Vikings, Hassan Ridgeway with the Colts, Shaquille Taylor, LaRaven Clark. It seems more and more that listen, you guys talk about it on the podcast. This is what coaches do. They go to the front office and they say, hey, I need people who know my system to come in and help with the other guys.
Look, Jim Schwartz did it with Nigel Bradham, okay? He did it with 4 or 5 players when he first got there in Philly in 2016, and there's nothing wrong with it. Because even if they're low-end players like Meters and Shaquille Taylor, they know this coach. They know this coach. Now, Ridgeway had been here before Gannon got here. They were together for one season with the Colts in 2018. So we'll see how it works out. But the good thing is you want to call them teachers, but they could explain things to the defensive players as they're going through it because they know the scheme. Though the question is, we're pretty certain it's going to be the Viking scheme. That's what we were told, and Gannon didn't dismiss that today. But we don't know how much of Zimmer's scheme is going to bring in. Is it going to be Mike Zimmer's scheme from Minnesota? It's going to be 100%. It's going to be 75%. We don't know that because what happens, Josh, is when you become a coordinator for the first time, you take blends of systems, but you have one dominant system. But then, like Doug Peterson, he brought in Andy Reid's system, but he brought in a different version of it. The kind of offense that they're going to bring in is what we're told is an old school West Coast. It's not going to be like Doug Peterson's West Coast. It's going to be more timing based and short area and run after the catch. Old Bill Walsh and Mike and Kyle Shanahan type offense.
Sounds very interesting to me. Adam Kaplan, Inside the Birds podcast at Kaplan NFL on Twitter. The latest edition of the podcast dropped this morning. Hit that subscribe button. You get the pods every Monday and Thursday with Adam and Jeff. And then Wednesdays is Q&A, Jason Avant, Quentin Michael. Of course, you got all the Greg Cosell stuff still on there from the draft as well. And as all guests, he appears every Thursday of Football at 4 on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Adam, great stuff today.
Thank you, Josh.
Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, this hour of the Sports Bash being brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bet and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com or by downloading the PropSwap app today. Still to come, do you remember? Mike Gill and I will run down the latest Do You Remember right here on 97.3 ESPN. Also still to come, Mike Gill's conversation with Todd Rank. The Rank Report on a Thursday on the NBA playoffs, the playing games, and more. All still to come right here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Turn it on. Leave it on. The Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
Attention, New Jersey. Matt Blatt Nissan needs to replenish their pre-owned inventory. They will buy your vehicle for cash today. You heard right. Matt Blatt Nissan will buy your current vehicle for cash or trade it for top dollar and put zero down payment, pay 0% interest, and get $2,500 off MSRP on every 2021 Nissan Murano in stock.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
All new loaded SV model 2021 Nissan Rogue. Lease just $239 per month with 0 security deposit. Plus our fast track checkout. Bring any vehicle and Matt Blatt Nissan will buy it for cash or pay top dollar for any trade in Egg Harbor Township next to Home Depot or online at mattblattnissan.com. Dated equity will be refinanced into new vehicle. With qualifications exist. Not all will qualify. 0% APR financing based on 1667 per thousand borrowed. Offers can be combined. Murano VIN, MC 101371, Road VIN, MW 011224, 36 month, 10,000 miles for your lease. Lease selling price $28,590. Call 877-289-6670 or go to mattblattnissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 5/31/21. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
Millions is giving you 515 million reasons to take a chance. That's a whole lot of millions. In Jersey, one mega chance could be all it takes. So take a chance on Mega Millions because anything can happen in Jersey.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
All right, everybody, welcome back to a Sports Bash Thursday. Do you remember today is May the 20th? We'll take a look at some events that happened on this day, May the 20th. My trusty producer, Josh Henning, is in to tell us if he remembers. We'll go back and forth, have a little fun as we always do during Do You Remember? I like this segment here. It makes me remember a lot of things, especially like this one. Josh, 1996. Do you remember? Michael Jordan earns a then record 96.5% of the first place votes from the media to win the Maurice Podoloff Trophy as the MVP for the season 1995-1996. It's his fourth overall NBA MVP award. Of course, we remember that.
Of course, we remember. We also remember the fact that Jordan, before Steph Curry this year, was previously the oldest player in league history to lead the league in points per game.
So this is what is interesting. Okay, so the point of this is that he wins his fourth overall MVP, but he only gets 96.5% of the vote. Remember, Steph Curry was like the first unanimous, right? Like, how ridiculous is this whole, like, he's the first unanimous, Jordan never won a unanimous, like the whole MVP voting. Like, we're going to see it happen this year. What percentage, like, I think Jokic is going to win.
Probably.
Right? It just feels like that's the way it's going right now. But, like, what percentage is Jokic going to get?
Good question, considering the fact that there are people right now who are screaming that Steph should get it. So how is there a contingent now going to vote for Steph and not for Jokic? Vote for Embiid? Like, is going to be divided?
Well, I feel like Embiid is out. Like, his name is not even in this thing anymore. It almost feels like, even though he might be number 2, I feel like everyone's like, I'm not voting for him to win it. I'll vote for him for number 2, but I'll vote for this guy to win it or this guy to win it. So it's like Jokic is either going to get first place votes or third place votes, and Curry's either going to get first place votes or third place votes. Neither one of them will get second place votes.
Right, exactly. It's going to be a strange. It's going to play out very
well.
strange.
And there came a time where Jordan, this is 1996. There comes a time where they're not giving Jordan the MVP trophy because he won it last year. We don't want to keep giving it to him.
Right. So that with Karl Malone, for example.
Right. You could make the argument that Jordan basically should have won it every single year that he played, much like LeBron.
Right. And that's what happens against them. That's the part that goes against them. And that is people get tired of giving them an award, not because they don't give it to who they should get. They give it to who they think deserves it.
The next year, Jordan was the scoring leader again, and Karl Malone won the MVP that year.
Right.
So you can make an argument, that Jordan should have won it. The next year, they won 69-13. You're telling me he wasn't the MVP? Like, if you took Jordan off
Jordan
those
was less valuable the next year than the year before.
Well, it's funny because if you took Jordan off of the 96-97 Bulls, are they winning 69 games? No way.
No.
And then the next year, he won the MVP again when they won less games. So somehow he was more valuable with them winning less games. Go figure, right?
Right, exactly.
All right. Do you remember? All right, let's see what else we got here. All right, this one, I think many people will remember. Barry Bonds homers in 4 straight at bats, his final 2 on May 19th and his 2 official ABs on May the 20th. Bonds never had a 4-home run game during his MLB career. Barry Bonds, 4 straight at bats. He had 2 on Tuesday or whatever day, and then the first 2 at bats the next day. He hits 2. Now, I think Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. I'm one of those who, it's a museum, put him in. I don't care what he did. I care what he did, but I don't care what he did. I want the museum to tell me the story of what he did.
I hate to say it this way, but I think it's almost overhyped at this point. We all know what happened, okay? We were there. But as you said, it's a museum. It's not a church. It's not morale.
Right.
Okay.
I have said over and over, this is a museum. This isn't a church. This isn't blessed be thy whatever. Barry Bonds, whatever he did it in a time that everybody else or a high percentage of others were doing the same thing. And he bucked the system. For whatever the system was, he beat it and got to play. Because guess what? Baseball let him play. He played the games. I watched him.
And the best part of that is if anybody's ever watched Ken Burns baseball, the last episode where they explain about what went into that, how Bonds was so angry that McGuire and Sosa were getting all that attention in 98, that his response was, you want to see what happens when I take something? Watch this. And you almost had to respect him for it because Bonds already had 400 home runs and 400 stolen bases without anything. And then he was like, watch this.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's a level of you got to respect the spite, man.
All right, let's go to another one because we did the Bulls with Jordan. How about this Bulls? Do you remember Scottie Pippen dunking over Patrick Ewing, steps over him, and then tells Spike Lee, sit down?
Right.
That happened on this day in 1994.
That was back when rivalries had juice.
Yeah, well, the Knicks are back in the playoffs, so maybe, the Bulls aren't back. A lot of people say, the NBA ratings issues have had some ties to no Knicks and no Bulls in the Eastern Conference for, a long time. The Knicks haven't been in the playoffs since the 2012-2013 season. This is the first time they've been in since basically the process started. Think about that. The Knicks haven't been in the playoffs the entire process.
But the Sixers have.
3 times.
Yeah.
This is the 4th.
And they whether they're on their 3rd different executive, their 5th different head coach.
Who, the Knicks?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe Spike Lee should have taken over after Scottie Pippen told him to sit down. All right. Here we go. What else happened on this day in 1919? Red Sox pitcher Babe Ruth won the game on the mound and hit his first career grand slam in a 6-4 win over the St. Louis Browns at Sportsman's Park. How about that? We're watching. Basically, this is Babe Ruth we're watching. Shohei Ohtani is what people in 1919 got to witness.
On a side note, remember we were talking about the other day about how if there could be like a team back in Philadelphia? There was a point where there were 2 St. Louis teams. Think about that for how crazy
And that's a small place.
That is way smaller than Philadelphia.
Yeah, but it's a baseball town.
It's more of a baseball town. You're right.
So you wonder, like a baseball town, like Chicago is a baseball town.
Yes.
Now, they don't support the White Sox like they do the Cubs, although the White Sox are pretty good right now.
Yeah, White Sox a lot of fun.
Although the Cubs are more supported as a touristy thing, too.
Right. In Chicago, it's definitely lines drawn between South Side and North Side.
Yeah, but the Cubs are more the national lovable losers,
Right.
where the White Sox don't really have a national following or moniker.
No,
I've
but
been
they have a strong local following.
Yeah, they do. And I've been to a White Sox game out there at, I think it was called Cellular One when I was like the new Comiskey. It's kind of an underrated stadium. It doesn't have any like redeeming character about it, though. It's not like it was built in a time right before all these ballparks were getting built to look like older, like Citizens Bank Park. I wonder when Citizens Bank Park's going to feel old, like when it's going to start to feel like, okay, we need a new one.
What do you think is the drawing of the line for when a ballpark starts getting old?
It depends. Like, well, I mean, I was at ballpark at Arlington, and that ballpark was barely 20 years old, and they already got a new one. The Braves. That ballpark was not even, I don't even think it was 10 years old. And
Braves were on their third ballpark in 30 years.
Right. They already went and got a new one out and it's not even in Atlanta. It's like an hour outside of Atlanta.
In the suburbs.
Yeah, it's in Cobb County, somewhere out there. So I don't know. Like Citizens Bank Park doesn't feel old at all.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, the White Sox thing, remember they had Comiskey Park for all those years, and that place was falling apart towards the end. By the way, I want to go back to Pippen real fast. So he dunks on Ewing. That game, speaking of ballparks, that was the last game at the old Chicago Stadium.
Oh,
yeah. That was the last Bulls game before they moved to, I guess, what is now the United Center?
United Center, yeah.
Right. So that was another thing that I left out of that. Do you remember? Because we're talking about Chicago, Comiskey Park. I love old stadiums, old facades, all that stuff. That's a place I never been to. I never was at the old Chicago Stadium.
There's a lot of people who are glad the Chicago Stadium is no longer
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Because it was such a bad neighborhood.
How about this? We don't do tennis all that much here. 1990, here's a blast from the past name for you. Monica Seles beats Steffi Graf in 2 sets at the Lufthansa Cup German Open in Berlin. Seles' victory snaps Steffi Graf's 66-match unbeaten streak. And I bring this one up because there was a time, people, where you could rip off the names of actual tennis players, both men and women. And it wasn't just the Williams sisters.
Correct.
I mean, I remember, and I'm pretty sure I saw on this day that Jennifer Capriati put herself in a drug rehab center. But Jennifer Capriati was a tennis big time. Steffi Graf, Martina Navratilova. Like, there were names out there that were very well known in the tennis world. Okay, I got a couple more. 1999, Mets third baseman Robin Ventura hits a grand slam in the first game of a doubleheader. In the second game, he hits another grand slam. To date, he is the only Major League Baseball player ever to hit a grand slam in 2 games of a doubleheader. Now, that's something.
That's wild.
Yeah. Now, I once hit a grand slam and a 3-run home run in the same game, but not in a doubleheader and not 2 grand slams in the same day.
I never hit a home run in my life.
Wow.
All
it's an exhilarating feeling, Josh.
I had an inside the park home run.
Yeah.
That doesn't count as a real home run.
Yeah, this was an actual high school baseball game. I hit 2 in the same game.
Yeah, I was playing at a field near Camden where the outfield wasn't really, like, there was no, like, end to the outfield, so the ball kept rolling.
I got a sad one here, all right? 2000. I bring this up because this guy was my favorite college player at a time. Minnesota Timberwolves forward Malik Sealy killed in a car crash. He was hit by a truck driven down the wrong side of the highway by a drunk driver in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. He had been driving home from a birthday party for a teammate and his best friend, Kevin Garnett, whose, by the way, birthday was yesterday. We talked about that yesterday on Do You Remember? Kevin Garnett's birthday, May 19th. The Timberwolves honored Sealy. They retired his number 2 jersey. Malik Sealy was my favorite player at St. John's. I was growing up. I loved St. John's. I loved Malik Sealy. I loved the St. John's. They were known as the Redmen back then. For whatever reason, I just thought, if you remember Sealy in St. John's, he had his head shaved, bald, but he had a little eyeball that he left in the back of his head, that he had eyes in the back of his head all the time. It was so cool. But I can't believe that was 21 years ago today. Malik Sealy passed away. All right, that is today's Do You Remember here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. We'll do it again tomorrow. We'll look at May 21st tomorrow, what happened on this day in May 21st for the Friday show. The Thursday edition, though, we took you to Babe Ruth, Michael Jordan, some big things. And by the way, one I didn't bring up real quick, 1979. Since we talked about Babe Ruth and Michael Jordan, I guess I should throw in Wayne Gretzky. The Winnipeg Jets beat Gretzky and the Edmonton Oilers 7-3 at the Winnipeg Arena to win the AVCO Cup in 6 games. That was the World Hockey Association's playoff championship. The league then folded and merged with the NHL after that season, and Wayne Gretzky and the Oilers became a dynasty. So that kind of ties it all in together. There you go. That is Do You Remember for today, May the 20th. Back with more Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN.
Turn it on. Leave it on. The Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
You asked for it. You got it. Fast track checkout at either Matt Blatt Kia location. Buy it your way. Complete your purchase online or have us deliver it. Purchase any new or pre-owned vehicle from Matt Blatt Kia in Egg Harbor Township or Toms River with 0 money down and 0% APR financing for 60 months on every 2021 Kia Soul, Sportage, or Forte. Plus, we need your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. So get out of that old car you hate with 0 down payment and 0% APR financing available for up to 60 months. Try Fast Track Checkout. Purchase completely online and have us deliver right to your home or office. Only at Matt Blatt Kia, where you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
Offers with approved Tier 1 or 2 credit through Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. 0% based on 1667 per 1,000 borrowed. Negative equity financed into new loan. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details. Expires 5/31/2021. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
Millions is giving you 515 million reasons to take a chance. That's a whole lot of millions. In Jersey, one mega chance could be all it takes. So take a chance on Mega Millions, because anything can happen in Jersey.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
Tim Legler, ESPN, NBA, the playoffs, the play-in game, which were kind of crappy last night. But he joins us now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Legs, good to catch up, man. How you been?
What's up, Mike? I'm good, man. You're right. Those are crappy. Those were a couple of duds. And, it's kind of a shame because this play-in, I think, is a tremendous concept. I think it's generated a lot of excitement, but it only works if all four teams are completely bought into being there that night. And that obviously wasn't the case with Charlotte and Washington. I don't think Russell Westbrook was playing as if that was a desperate game for him. I think he looked at it like we have a game in hand. If we lose, we get Indiana, and I'd rather play Philadelphia anyway. I really think that's what Russell Westbrook's philosophy was last night, because he did not have the same level of, you got to kill me to stop me mentality that he normally plays with last night. And obviously Charlotte, you give up 144 points to a team and your season's going to end if you lose the game. That's just a complete lack of just mental focus to play that game last night for the Hornets.
Yeah, it's funny. I said that yesterday, Legs, and I kind of got ripped for it. I said, maybe one of these teams doesn't want to play Brooklyn, and you watch that in the game tonight. And then, I got people telling me, oh, you got to win the game. If you lose, you might not make the playoffs. Well, if you have a chance to win one of the two games, you're going to take that shot. So you think that maybe Washington wanted to avoid playing, because a lot of people thought Washington of the four was the best.
Yeah, listen, I had them going in as clearly winning that game the way they've been playing, and Boston is so wildly inconsistent, and you don't have Jaylen Brown. I looked at that game, and I watched Westbrook in the first half, and his lack of aggression offensively. And look, I know he had 13 rebounds and 5 assists at halftime, which is kind of ridiculous, to have 13 boards as a point guard in a half. He had 1 rebound and no assists in the second half. I mean, you come on. I mean, a guy like Russell Westbrook can get that in his sleep. So I'm not saying they went out and deliberately lost the game. What I think happened, though, was they played the game, and they probably had the mentality, look, if we're in the game and Boston's going to let us stick around and give it to us, we'll go ahead and take the game. Because they're right. People that say, hey, you can't lose that, like intentionally, because now your entire season hinges on one night. And if you play Indiana tomorrow night and somebody gets in foul trouble, somebody gets hurt, somebody has a bad shooting night, Beal doesn't play well, you're done. So I get that, and I think there's some truth in that. I'm just saying, mentally, knowing you did not have to win that game to move on.
Right.
And by not winning the game, you have, I think, a more advantageous matchup. That makes sense to me. And so let's see what Westbrook comes out with tomorrow night, and you'll know pretty early. If he's an aggressive offensive player looking to get to the rim, set the tone with his pace and his speed, I think it's going to say a lot, because he was not looking to score in the first half of that game. And as a result, you end up digging yourself a little bit of a hole. Eventually Tatum got hot, and there you go. Game over. And now they get one matchup with a team, by the way. Listen, another component of this. Have you seen Russell Westbrook's numbers against Indiana this year? He's averaging like 25 points, 20 assists in 3 games. So if you don't think he loves playing against Indiana, there is no doubt in his mind they are going to beat the Pacers. And he knew that going in.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, it makes it a more advantageous matchup, I believe, for them. Look, I don't think they'll beat Philly, but I don't think they had any shot to play Brooklyn. And the last thing Russell Westbrook wanted to see was Kevin Durant on a stacked team playing against him and ending his season.
That's what we all wanted to see, though. We wanted to see Wizards, Nets, and Westbrook against Durant. That would have been fun, but we're not going to get that. So, Tim Legler, you mentioned Philly. That's who they'll play. This Indiana, who just beat them 2 weeks ago, does Indiana or Washington give Philly any headaches in round 1?
I think Washington could be a little bit of a headache. I don't think Indiana will be. I mean, you take Karis LeVert out, they're talking up to 2 weeks. He could miss. How are you supposed to I say that? Now they scored 144 points against Charlotte, and Sabonis didn't even play well. But look, the Hornets gave up 3 uncontested dunks on baseline out of bounds plays. So that shows you where they were at last night mentally. So don't go by that game. The Sixers are the best perimeter defensive team in the league. They're going to play against Indiana. Indiana, without Karis LeVert, I think Indiana has a hard time getting to 100 points. So Indiana, I don't think gives them any trouble. Washington, with that backcourt, with the way that those two guys can get going, can control the game at the pace, yes, they could be a little bit of a problem. Philly will win the series, but I would not be shocked if Washington won a couple of games in that series. But I don't think you're going to get to a point where you're in a game 7 in Philadelphia. I don't think it'll get to that point. But I think Washington would be far scarier to play than the Pacers.
All right, we'll get to tonight's game in just a second. I want to stay in the East because if you've been watching any of the ESPN properties, you've seen Timmy Legler mention you think Miami is going to upset Milwaukee here. Now, it's funny because Milwaukee got upset last year. Everybody had them as the favorite, and the year before. Now, this year's team's been under the radar, and people are like, they're under the radar. Watch out for them. Was this the worst possible scenario for them?
Yeah, I think it's the one team they probably didn't want to see. And look, the Heat are playing their best basketball of the year. Jimmy Butler's been unbelievable. I mean, he's playing at an all-league level right now coming into it. They got everybody healthy. And for me, the biggest issue is this. Like the Bucks, the last 2 years, best record of regular season. They came up short in the playoffs. Two years ago, it was Toronto who just zoned up basically Giannis. He didn't have an answer for that. Last year, he got hurt in the series. I don't think they were going to win it anyway. And so they get Drew Holiday. And I say to my son, Bobby Portis, like some big pickups. And I'm like, all right, I like this team better than the last two because Drew Holiday is a guy now as a primary ball handler that you can get the ball to in important moments in one possession games late. He can go do something off a ball screen, make a three, get to the rim, make a play. Giannis, if they continue to try to settle games by giving him the ball with a dribble coming out of the backcourt and an isolation at the top of the key, and he continues to be reluctant to shoot the ball. He drives into gaps where there's people in front of him. He commits offensive fouls. He throws the ball away. He takes off-balance shots at the rim. It's just not his game to give the ball to him late, let him ISO, and let him go and expect something good to happen. And when I watch them this year, it doesn't look like they've learned the lesson because their record is great, but when they get into those moments, they revert back to the mentality of, this guy's an MVP 2 times. He's our best player. That's what you do in this league. You give it to your best player, particularly as an MVP, and you let him go. And if they keep doing that, they're not going to beat Miami because they are going to come up small in the moments that matter most that turn an entire series around. And that's why I picked the Miami Heat because I just haven't seen Milwaukee navigate those tight games any differently than they have in the past. And Eric Spoelstra's too good a coach. They're going to be too prepared defensively to allow Giannis to gut them at those moments and get to the rim. It's not going to happen.
Tim Legler, I like that. That's interesting because everybody thought it was a 3-team race. And, of course, the Sixer fans were kind of panicking. We don't want to play the Heat in round 1. Now you don't have to face either one of them. You only have to face Brooklyn. How about Philly's path that they ended up getting?
Yeah, all right. So you're going to get a Washington team, let's say, most likely, I believe. I think that'll be a good test for them. I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on you defensively to guard, and that's good to have a series like that to start off. Then you're talking about Knicks Atlanta, winner of that one. Atlanta is a team I know has given Philly a little bit of trouble, and they've had Trae Young has done some things against them. Ultimately, though, I look at their team and I look at how young they are and going through this for the first time. They would not be ready for that stage against Philly. And I think Philly's defense ultimately will suffocate those perimeter players. And the Knicks, look, I think the Knicks have a good chance of winning that series. You get the Knicks, that's to be a battle, a war, a more of a grinded out, physical. You might see some altercations in that series. That would be a lot of fun to watch Philly and the Knicks, but the Knicks just do not have enough firepower. Because R.J. Barrett is not on that level yet where he's consistent enough to give you 20 a night. Randall's a star, legit. He'll do his thing. Barrett, questionable. And then you count on guys like Derrick Rose and Quickly and Bullock and people like that. Are they going to be able – Derrick Rose, I think, actually will play well. R.J. Barrett, I don't really trust. Quickly's a rookie. And Bullock, I don't think he's going to play as well as he has lately. So I don't think the Sixers have a problem with either one of those teams. That's at max a 6-game series. And that obviously sets up the conference finals with Brooklyn.
Which would obviously, this is kind of like, and I don't want to get so far ahead and break that thing down, but you got these 3 offensive players who knows what they're going to look like against, as you just mentioned, they are the best perimeter defensive team. So you got this defensive-minded team. And quite frankly, Legs, they could probably be better defensively if they played Thibault more minutes, if they played George Hill more minutes. Like, they could change their philosophy up against Brooklyn and maybe make that even a more offense versus defense situation.
Yeah, and they're going to have to. I think the key against Brooklyn is, look, Harden gets a ton of screens, ball screens. That's not a one-man job. So whether it's Simmons or Thibault or Danny Green, whoever's guarding him, that's not really their responsibility other than to don't get blown by, because he's going to get ball screens. So he's going to engage the big. So the game plan against Harden is different than Durant and Kyrie Irving. Those guys get some ball screens too, but they do a lot of just straight attack off the dribble, try to get to their sweet spots. When if you can play them with one guy and at least make them work to take contested shots, and I think Philly has more guys that can do that to them than anybody else. You've done your job. So it really comes down to that. Can Thibault and Green and Simmons, can these guys, and then Embiid's obviously back there, but it's going to be mainly that mid-range area of the floor that Kyrie and Durant just dominate. Can they stay with them and not get in foul trouble and make them take tough contested shots? If you can, you've won the battle. And sometimes, guess what? They're so good it goes in anyway, and you're not beating that team if that's the case. But I think Philadelphia is as equipped as any team in the NBA from a personnel standpoint to play against them. But look, here's what it comes down to for me. That's why I think Brooklyn's going to win it all. You've never seen in the history of this league 3 guys with this kind of raw offensive talent on the same team. It's never existed. They can beat you in every platform there is offensively, each of them. So the fact that they've worked out the Kyrie Harden thing, because they kind of have, it's James Harden's team clearly. He's running the show. He dictates possessions. Kyrie says, okay, fine, I'll just go be an aggressive off guard. He's cool with that role. And then Durant can get 30 no matter if he could be playing with the 4 greatest scorers in the history of the league and he's still getting 30 because he's that good. It's that efficient. So they've worked it out from a personality standpoint. Now, Mike, the one thing we haven't seen, when they get tested and they're in one possession game inside of a minute, what are they going to do offensively? Because if they're going to give the ball to James Harden, let him run high ball screen like he did in Houston in those situations that Kevin Durant is not touching the ball or he's not the primary option, Brooklyn can be beaten.
That's very well put, Tim Legler, and we hope we get to see that matchup, offense versus defense, Sixers in Brooklyn, and, of course, that would be in your Eastern Conference Finals because the Sixers got the 1 seed. Now, Legs, so many people said Sixers. Okay, I'll believe it when I see it in the playoffs. Can teams defend the Sixers the same? I mean, can they run this wall against Ben Simmons and say, hey, you're not going to shoot it? Or is this new roster configuration take away some of the sagging?
Well, I know what I would do if I were playing against them. I mean, first of all, obviously, yeah, you're backing off them as much as you possibly can. But I've been amazed how many teams don't employ a couple of different strategies against Philadelphia. One being, and I know he's a good weak side slasher, doubling off of him. Whoever is guarding him is the double guy on Embiid with a half rotation to him, meaning if he dives hard to the paint or along the baseline, obviously he's got to be picked up and checked and hip checked or bumped or forearmed to keep him from getting direct cut pass from Embiid for something at the rim. But he doesn't always do that. Sometimes he just kind of drifts around on the baseline or stands out on the perimeter. And if that's the case, a double team off of him and then a half rotation. So you kind of go halfway between your man who's a shooter probably and him. If he dives hard, yeah, you got to pick him up. And let's see if Embiid can make that cross-court pass, to a Danny Green or to a Seth Curry for a 3. Can he do that? If he kind of hangs out on the perimeter, you go full-fledged with that double team off of him. And let's see how much Ben Simmons is willing to cut and how much they're willing to feed him as a weak side slasher and beat you. Is he willing to go get 16, 18, 20 points at the rim off of dives because that's how they're playing him? I've never seen a team really even try that.
Yeah.
Because you can't leave Curry and Green.
Right.
I mean, they're too dangerous, and Korkmaz, obviously they hurt you too much. You've got to do it off the non-shooter, and that's to me is Simmons. The other thing is Fowler more. Send him to the line more. Get in his head and see if he can convert early in the game. Because I think when he misses free throws early in the game, I think sometimes it impedes his confidence,
right.
And he now becomes much less aggressive as a driver. So I think a couple of fouls on him early to put him at the line and see, he goes 1 for 4 in his first 2 trips. That might mean you're not worried as much about his up-the-court speed because he doesn't want to get to the rim as much. So there's ways to defend them. Bottom line is it's got to be, what are you going to do with Joel Embiid? You cannot let him just beat you up in the paint to the tune of 35 to 40 where he's getting 18 to 20 free throws and getting what he wants. You've got to make him a passer off the dribble. And the guy you leave, I think, is Simmons.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting because teams in the past would sag, and Simmons didn't have anybody that can make shots. If he went down and kicked it out, there was nobody to make that shot. So if you're going to sag and let him kick it out, and they're going to get more open, because a lot of times what happens in the playoffs, legs, these shooters like the Joe Harrises of the world, teams get up in their face. They don't give him open looks. Can they do that? If you're getting in Steph Curry's face, that means you're probably not sagging off of Simmons as much, and that gives him more opportunity to get to the basket. That's going to be interesting.
Hey, Mike, it's very true. And guess what? You're going to see something similar tonight. You're going to see the Lakers trap Steph Curry 35 to 40 feet from the basket on every single ball screen. And when he comes off, and sometimes he'll keep that dribble, and he'll try to take two guys with him, and they're going to stay with him. And you know what's going to happen? He's going to swing it back to the middle of the floor to Draymond Green. And then Draymond Green, now at his peak, when they were winning championships, Draymond Green was going to kill you from that spot when the ball came back because he had 4-on-3 or 3-on-2 on the weak side. He was either going to drive it, throw a lob to somebody, he was going to drive it, kick out the three, or he was going to drive it to finish and occasionally mix in a wide open three if they left him all alone. Now, he's not the scorer he once was. He doesn't think it that way, but he better be ready to do that in this game if they want to win this game because the opportunities are going to be there for Draymond Green. It's going to be similar with Simmons. If you're going to stay home chest to chest with Curry and Korkmaz and Green and guys like that, when that ball gets rotated out of Embiid's hands, Ben Simmons is going to have space and gaps and opportunities to catch that thing and either on a slash or catch it at the three-point line and drive it right down the gut and try to get to the rim as the defense is rotating out of the double team. But there can be no hesitation. It has to be a mindset. This going into the game, he's got to be getting himself ready, driving to the arena, knowing those opportunities are going to be there. I've got to make a pay. It's the only way to soften it up. And then Joel Embiid takes over. Same thing with Curry. He's hoping tonight, early on, Jordan Poole and Bazemore and Wiggins, and these guys are making some shots. And if they are, the Lakers adjust. Now Steph Curry gets loose. That's what has to happen. I think Ben Simmons is in a very similar situation to Draymond Green. He has to be aggressive and attacking to take some of the pressure off Embiid when they get into the postseason, and particularly if they get to a situation where you got to score a lot of points to beat a team like Brooklyn.
All right. It all starts on Sunday for the Sixers against a TBD opponent. You'll see legs all over ESPN, and he was kind enough to join us right here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. I'm glad we did this, man. That was a lot of fun. Sixers Sunday right here on 97.3 ESPN. Tim Legler, appreciate it, man.
You got it, Mike. Anytime.
That was an excellent breakdown. We broke it down from almost every single angle you could, and he gave you a great way to try to defend the 76ers with the Ben Simmons stuff. Hey, everybody, it's Mike Gill from my friends over at PropSwap.com. And, of course, the PGA Championship is underway. It should be a great weekend of golf, which means it's a great time for prop swappers, Luke.
If the Masters was any indication of how busy we'll be this weekend, I think it should be a very popular time to be on the site.
Tell everybody why golf is such a great event for prop swappers. How can our listeners right now, all right, I want to make some money off prop swap. There's golf on this weekend. Why is golf a perfect event?
The short answer is the swings of the odds, right? So, this happens every single golf tournament, whether it's a major or just a usual PGA tournament, like some long shot or even a Spieth, Rory, Koepka, a favorite that's a really good Thursday and Friday, and then they totally fade into oblivion on Saturday and Sunday. And unless you're using PropSwap, there isn't a way to capture that hot start, right? There isn't a way for you to sell your bet. You can obviously, some apps will have the cash out option, but of course with PropSwap, if Spieth is 5-1, the cash out option is going to be 9-1. Buy the ticket on PropSwap and then sell that bet on PropSwap. You're getting exact market value for Jordan Spieth. If his current odds are 5-1, your bet will sell at odds of 5-1, if not even higher, because you got to remember, we have customers in California, in Ohio, in Massachusetts, 3 huge states where sports betting isn't legal yet. So you can post your bet for sale and get a premium, sell it for even higher than what it's worth because these PropSwap customers, they just want to get their hands on a sports bet.
It's PropSwap.com. It's the best odds in the world, and it's the best time to use it. The PGA Championship, the NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball. PropSwap them all. And go to PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today. Luke, thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike.
South Jersey's home of the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, me too.
WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is 97.3 ESPN. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Mike Gill.
All right, 5 o'clock hour here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Mike Gill with you. And, of course, Todd Rank is here for the Rank Report. We tell you boy, what a game last night. If you stayed up late for that one, you finally got a good game in these games. Sports Bash brought to you by Clark's Moving and Storage in South Jersey for your next long or local distance move. Clark's Moving and Storage is your first call. They're dependable and always show up online. Clark'sMoving.net. All right, T. Last night, we had to stay up late for probably the best. Well, not probably, definitely the best of these play-in games, which have all been pretty poor. But that LeBron, right? He hits the big shot last night. He hits that three. His time is winding down. He hit basically a Steph Curry shot last night.
That's exactly what it was. It was a great look. It was a great game. I didn't think, because I think I sent you a text at the end of that game and I didn't get a response. So I don't know. Did you watch that shot this morning or did you watch it last night?
Well, I did see it last night. I had that game last night. But, sometimes, those texts come in at 12:30. My phone is done by then.
I was up, I'm jumping around in my apartment. It was a great game. Look.
Well, you're getting that game at 9:30. Of course you're jumping around. If I'm jumping around at 12:30, my neighbor's going to call saying, what the hell's going on over there?
It was a 7:30 p.m., just about a start over here. So it was beautiful. The sun was still out over here. But no, look, I got to say, Curry did what he does. I thought the first half was unbelievable. Golden State did everything they could to put themselves in position to win that game. And to your point, he literally took a Steph Curry shot and made it. I thought the reaction by Curry was great. And it was Steph saying, you got me. You got me this one, right? Now, do I think Golden State will win on Friday night? I do, but I think I'm a little more concerned now because Memphis, they beat them to get the 8th seed.
Right.
Now Memphis, it's one of those turnaround games where you go, well, you beat me the first time. You're not going to beat me now.
All right. Well, listen, I thought LeBron, we have this conversation a lot here because of Simmons, because he doesn't shoot at all. But LeBron was very Simmons last night, other than the fact that he made the three and he had another three earlier. And I think he shot 4 threes. But when Simmons doesn't play for the Sixers, he missed 4 games recently and they were a mess. The difference between Curry and him scoring 37, and he's great and he's fun, and I'm not knocking him at all. But LeBron controlled the game last night because he controls the pace, he controls the style, and he's such a good passer. That's so underrated about some of the pass. He hits Caruso cutting on the back. Caruso gives him the ball. Caruso cuts. He passes it, boom, in the lane. Caruso layup. The pass, he gets down, he cuts down the lane, and then a wide open Anthony Davis. He controls the pace of the game, and I thought that was the difference between the style of the game last night that Curry wants to play and the game that LeBron wanted to play.
Well, the other is the Lakers were quadruple teaming Curry, so there's not much he could,
That's
at
true.
the end of the game. And that's a good defensive strategy by Vogel, if you ask me. But no, look.
And he still scored 37, by the way.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Look, he had the position, and I thought that was key at the end of the game. It was 103-100 Lakers. LeBron had just made that shot. What do? They take the ball out of Curry's hands. The Warriors got an open shot, but it was Poole in the corner. And again, Poole's been playing well, but he's not Steph Curry. And if you're the Lakers, you'll live with Poole making that three over Curry.
Absolutely.
So the game plan at the end was good. LeBron is strong. Again, physically, he's still an imposing figure. He makes the right decisions. I will say, can he make that shot? Yes, he can, but it was a bit of luck along with, again, he can make that range.
Bro, they're all luck, man. When it leaves your hand, it either goes in or goes out. It's a flip of the coin.
Now, I will say this, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this. I thought the whole I'm blind was a little dramatic for me at the end of the game.
Right,
I'm seeing three baskets.
He goes Rocky on us. Hit the one in the middle, man. Just hit the one in the middle, man. I mean, come on.
Pass on that.
Right? Exactly. He gives you that. Hey, I got 3 rims, so I just shot for the one in the middle, whatever.
But let me tell you, Mike, to me, the Lakers were underwhelming. Now, again, they haven't played a lot together because they've been injured, but they were underwhelming. As you look forward into these playoffs, I know everybody right now they're minus 300 against the Suns. They're the favorite.
Ooh.
Do you think the Suns have any chance with a healthy LeBron and AD?
Yeah, they got a minimal chance. I feel bad for that team. They haven't been in the playoffs in 10 years. They win 50 games. They have a great regular season. And it's like, hey, because LeBron missed all these games and now he's back at the perfect time, here you go. You got stuck facing them. I mean, if LeBron plays all year long, are the Suns the 2 seed?
Well, we know the Lakers aren't a 7-seeder, but are we watching in essence a 2 versus 3 basically? That's probably what we're a 1 versus 2.
You're saying this is essentially a second round game, made like a second round game, 2-3.
Easily.
Right.
Easily second round game.
Yeah, because look, the Suns are legitimately a good team. I mean, Chris Paul, Booker, Ayton, they have a little size. I just don't see how right now. I know Paul is a veteran guy, but this is a team that hasn't been in the playoffs in 10 years. They got a lot of guys who are going to be making that first trip to the playoffs, and it's like, hello, here's LeBron, here's AD, here's the defending champions. Like, I don't see, man. I don't see how they beat the Lakers here. And the Lakers, by the way, as you said, they didn't there were some times, though, they looked like, okay, we got this, we figured it out. Like, I know we're not ourselves, but there were some times in that game where they had LeBron's passing, man. Woo, he had a good night passing the ball last night.
No, he did. Look, offensively, he wasn't great.
No.
He made the big shot.
22 points. I said, if Ben Simmons watches that game, 22 points. He didn't score 30. He didn't score 20. He scored 22. Ben can score about 15, but the passing, the way he sets these other guys up, that's where they beat him last night. He was setting guys up.
Well, and I say they were underwhelming, and he still had a triple-double, by the way.
Well, they were underwhelming because that's the game he wanted to play. He wanted it to be an underwhelming game because he didn't want to get into an up and down, back and forth with that team.
Well, but not even that, though, Mike. That first half, and he admitted to this after the game, they came out kind of, we're going to figure it out as we go. And the Golden State was smacking him in the face because every game Golden State has played over the last 2 weeks has, in essence, been a playoff game.
Right.
They've had to win. They went 15-5 down the stretch. They had to get to a position to get into the playoffs. So they were playing like a playoff team. Third quarter was the key, Mike. Third quarter was
now let me ask you this. You're out in L.A. Do people think that this Lakers team as a 7 seed is just going to waltz through these playoffs? Because, Utah, Do they feel like a 1? Does Phoenix feel like a 2? I mean, so I don't know. How do the Clippers fans feel?
Well, the Clippers fans are optimistic. They really like their team. But I would say the Laker Nation, they don't, there's an arrogance to the attitude, right? There's an arrogance to, we won it last year. We consider we've got the best player in the league, no matter who the MVPs are and how great everybody else is playing. LeBron is LeBron. But I will say, I think this team has a chink in the armor. LeBron, again, he had to make a miraculous shot at the end of the game last night, and that was just to make the playoffs, by the way. So I just think everybody assumes that this team can turn it on and be who they want to be.
And by the way, they needed a miraculous shot against a pretty average Warriors team.
Against a superstar with nobody else.
Right, that's an average team. It's an average team. Okay, what the Sixers could be facing, the Washington Wizards, that's a very average team that has 2 great players on. I mean, Bradley Beal.
2 great players.
Right, Bradley Beal, I'm not saying he's better than Steph Curry, but he's every bit as, he was the second leading scorer in the league, and you got Russell Westbrook on that team. Now, they don't have anything else, but that's essentially the Warriors right now. They got Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins, and Draymond Green, who didn't score a bucket last night.
Well, I was going to say, and I don't want to leave out Draymond Green because he's an integral part of that team, and he was in the championship teams, right? His passing, when we talk about passing, his shot is gone. I mean, he used to be able to make the threes.
He was great defensively, though.
That's what I mean. Defensively on AD, he was huge, and passing, he's huge. So I don't want to disregard Draymond, but when we're talking about scoring, you got Steph. Now, Andrew Wiggins has gotten better over the year. But Andrews, again, he's unproven. Every night he's not the same. I was going to say the same thing about Kyle Kuzma on the Lakers. One game he could give you 25. The next game he gives you 2. So he's unreliable. But that's the point, Mike, is let's look at who they beat, how they beat them. They were at home as well. And they're just trying to get up. Now, everybody assumes they're going to be a freight train and momentum is going to build with this team. But I don't know. The bench is different than last year. Schroeder, who's their point guard, he's looking for a contract, not necessarily looking to win the championship. So, the mentalities on the team are a little different. And I just think there's going to be a hungry, younger team that is going to take over. And I don't know that it's the Suns, but I do like the components on the Suns. But I think the Lakers are vulnerable this year. And I don't see them actually coming out of the West. I think they could make it to the conference finals, but I don't see them making it to the finals. Everybody's already got the Lakers and the Nets. I don't necessarily see that.
Well, everybody's got the Nets in the East, that's for sure. Sixers, now, if you're a Sixer fan, you rather play Washington with Beal and Westbrook or this Pacers team with Sabonis? LeVert's not, we don't know when he's going to come back. They play tonight, obviously. Pacers, they put up 144 the other night. Didn't look like the Hornets cared to be there too much. And the Wizards.
Which is a shame. That's a shame.
And the Wizards, I don't think, wanted any part of the Nets. So they said, right, we'll acquiesce to you. We'll play tonight. Because they have beaten the Pacers all 3 times, and Westbrook has averaged a triple-double against this team. So if you're the Sixers, who do you want to face? The Wizards or the Pacers? I'm saying Pacers. I think I'd rather face the Pacers.
To be honest with you, I don't think it matters at all. I don't think either team matters for the Sixers, right? I will say the Sixers should get through this first round. Westbrook's exciting to watch. He can put up some points. He'll get you your triple doubles. Beal could get hot. So based off of that, but I think Indiana is a better all-around team. So
yeah, but in the playoffs, man, you got to have a superstar. They got Beal. They got Westbrook. They got 2 guys who are legitimate players. Sabonis is an all-star. He's like a lower-level all-star. But, you got to have a guy. They don't have a guy.
I hear what you're saying on that. And maybe I'm just going off of what the eyes saw the other day. It just looked to me that Indiana, there was much more of a hunger. There's more of a focus. I look at some of those intangibles. They looked like a team that was ready and willing and wanting to play in the playoffs and looking to beat somebody. This Wizards team, again, we all know what Westbrook is, and he's a phenomenal player. He's a phenom in the league, his athleticism, but it never feels like he's I don't know why, Mike. Am I wrong? I never feel like he's playing to win the game. Like he's out there to play as hard as he can, and he always I don't want to say he doesn't want to win, but he comes up short over and over again.
Yeah. Well, he just, they went to the finals. That was 10 years ago. That group of guys, they were really young, and he hasn't. I don't know. I don't know what to think of him. I mean, he was on those Thunder teams when Harden and Durant left, and they still stayed. But you're right. It almost
there's something missing though, Mike. He was with Harden again in Houston, and it amounted to nothing. Like there's got to be something that's there's just an intangible that's not good with Westbrook, and I don't know what it is. He's not a great shooter, so he's not a guy you want taking the shot late in the game. I mean, that's a crutch, right? That would be a piece that you need. So he does have Beal to take that shot, but I think Westbrook always wants to take that shot, but he misses it.
Right, and by the way, Beal, who's not 100% either, so you got that as well.
That's the other piece. So, I mean, you would say you want the Pacers. Honestly, I think I would lean
Pacers too. Todd, you got Joel Embiid. He didn't play the last time they played the Pacers, and the Pacers beat you. I mean, but they know it beat. They've got nobody to defend Embiid. They, without Miles Turner, they are one of the worst teams at giving up points in the paint, if not the worst. Who the hell's going to defend Embiid for both teams? But Washington's got like Len. They got a couple guys that could just kind of lean on Embiid. Indiana got nobody. You would do a better job bodying up like you did Anthony Becht.
I did a hell of a job. If there was any tape on that, if anybody's got any video on that, I'd like them to bring it out.
And I wasn't even at that game, so I can't even verify. This game is like old lore. Like you banging Anthony Becht in the paint and Weinberg hitting a 3/4 court shot to send it to overtime.
I mean, that folklore is getting bigger and bigger. I was in Cancun, Mexico, and called from Cancun to get the result of that game. And there was a part of me that said, I think I'd rather be at that game than in Cancun, Mexico. I mean, we were given a 0.1% chance to win that game. And somehow, somewhere.
That's because the background on that game. Now, Anthony Becht, by the way, is a first-round draft choice in the NFL. He is on my intramural basketball team with a couple of other guys. Well, they broke off and started their own team. And so we were left to pick up the pieces. So we had to put our own team together, and they went and took all Becht. They got all the football players. So we put together our little half-ass team, and they figured, now there's 265 teams in the WVU intramural league, right? How do you meet up with the team that you actually disbanded from in the playoffs? It's like a 1 in a million shot, and the team that was broken away from beats the team that wants to break away. They didn't think we were good enough players was the problem, and yet we were actually the better players.
And I was an afterthought on that team. I was brought in last minute. I became Dennis Rodman, and I took care of Becht. I mean, that's literally what happened. I wish there was video of it.
I wish there was video of it, too, because I'd like to see it, right? I said I think that year I might have averaged about 25 a game.
Right, you were shooting that outside shot pretty well. You had a nice shot working at that time, but Weinberg came up. He made up big for you. Yeah, it was a great game. It was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. I wish we can play the game. My girlfriend's son, he's 15, and it's like I could beat him. The problem is I can't keep up with him. I mean, I'll hit 2 threes in a row, and then if I miss one and he gets the ball, that first round of defense puts me out for the game.
Oh, well, where are we playing? Are we playing in the driveway? Where are we playing?
Yeah, we got the court in the driveway at my house. Now, last weekend, we had volleyball set up, and he had a bunch of his buddies at the house playing a little volleyball. And, I mean, I'm spiking it all over the place, and after a couple spikes, I'm gassed, man. And then we're playing that – you play that spike ball on that West Coast.
Well, is that spike ball off of that little, trampoline thing?
Yes.
Yeah. They play it out here on the beach a lot. I haven't gotten into it.
Well, that's a game you'd like.
Would I?
You would.
Seems like that. Doesn't that take some physical activity?
Yeah, it does, but I mean, you're kind of standing in you're moving in a couple 3 inches this way, 3 inches that way. It's not a whole lot, and it's just a lot of boom, boom, boom. Yeah, I was playing last week. It was me and Heidi against her 2 sons, and I'm spiking it in his face.
Was there a little trash talk going on?
Oh, yeah. That's a good trash talk game, too. It's a fun game. You'd like that game. You like that game. It's a little spike ball, man. We had the ladder ball, the spike ball. I mean, we had our first, 80-plus degree day over here in some time, so the yard games were coming out. We had that wiffle ball going. Just a little wiffle ball, man.
Well, maybe we make that purchase for that spike ball down in Clearwater next year.
I'd like to see that. You know, by the way, how many years have we been going to Clearwater?
Well, you even went a couple years before I even joined on, but probably about 10 to 15. Well, it's been 15 years probably now.
I finally made it to that beach for the first time.
Oh, my God. It only took 15 plus years for you to walk over and put the feet in the sand.
We sat there for about 2 hours. You know, they have these little tents that they go over your head because it's so damn hot down there. I said, but that's the problem. The beach down there, it's not even an enjoyable experience because you're sitting under this thing and it doesn't feel like you're there with anybody else.
Well, what you have to do, Mike, is you get a raft and you get in the water on those hot days and you just enjoy the water.
We went in the water, but I'm saying, when we go to the beach here, we got a nice big circle, a couple drinks flow. Here, you can't get in the circle. They got these tents that you have to individually sit in, 2 people fitting in them. And then, two. That's the whole beach is just lined with these things.
Well, was that just because it was too hot or you were at a resort hotel?
No, I think it's because of the heat. I think that's the way they do it down there. You don't have to sit in them if you don't want, but the whole beach is filled with them.
Right. You'll get cooked otherwise. Well, that's why I say if I go down there, I put the bags on the beach sand, I get right in the water. I get right in that water. That way I can look back on the beach, see everybody, but you're out in the water keeping cool because otherwise, you're either taking a nap in that little hut that they build for you or you head off to the
It's funny, they charge you whatever it is for the day and the guy comes over. Now we sat there for about 2 hours and nobody came over to us. Right? The guy comes over and he says, what's your last name? And I'm like, he's like, what was that? I said, yeah, we paid earlier. What's your last name? And I'm like, because I'm thinking, how do they know who paid, who didn't, whatever? Did somebody pay earlier and then they left and then you jumped in and they didn't know who the person that was that paid. So I'm just throwing it. Yeah, we paid, earlier, whatever. And the guy's asking what your name is. So I just said, yeah, it's
Johnson.
Right. I'm like, yeah, it's Smith. Yeah, do you have the name that's on your card? I was like, damn it, they got me.
You had no card.
Oh, I had my card, but that wasn't the card that paid.
I like that. A couple of those dollars came out of the wallet.
They get you for $35 for the day.
Wow.
Yep. You sit in that little blue tent, $35, something like that.
Well, that's the other reason you never go to the beach. You can use that $35 at that Surfside Tavern. You could use it to your benefit.
That's probably accurate. That's probably a better spent dollar there. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the Rank Report. Todd Rank, the NBA playoffs. They continue with the play-in game tonight. We'll know who the Sixers' opponent is. And then tomorrow night, it'll be Warriors. That Memphis team, don't sleep on them.
I know, I'm worried, but I'll tell you this. The NBA is praying for Steph Curry to get into these playoffs. He is the show.
Absolutely.
He is the show.
Can you imagine a Memphis-Utah? Is there any less attractive matchup than those two? Although you got Donovan Mitchell and Ja Morant. I mean, you got some nice, but Memphis and Utah got to be the two worst markets that you can put together in one series.
It would be terrible.
Right.
It would be terrible for the NBA. You get me Golden State against Utah. I even think they actually have a slim shot to win that series, especially if Donovan Mitchell isn't, he's going to be all right, I think, for the playoffs. But if he gets re-injured, we got a problem, right? If he goes down, I think it's wide open for Golden State to try and steal that series.
All right, there we go. All right, real quick before we roll here. You got Utah, Golden State, or Memphis. Who you got?
Wait a minute. I got Golden State beating Memphis.
Okay.
And then you're saying, do I got Golden State beating Utah?
Yeah, who do you got in that one? This isn't a hard game.
Well, I mean, my heart says I want Golden State, but realistically, if Donovan Mitchell's healthy, I'll say Utah in that series.
All right, you got Utah. I'm going Utah too. Phoenix, Lakers, who you got?
I'm going Phoenix. I think Phoenix, I know they're young. I know it's new. I like the CP3.
Young, but they ready. Was that an old Jalen Rose song right there? All right, I got Lakers winning that series. Denver, Portland. I'm going to go Portland.
Wow. Are you doing that because Murray's
No
not
Murray.
in?
What am I going to do? No Murray.
I know, but Jokic has just been playing lights out. I love that Portland team. I'm going to go Denver. I just think Denver's going to find a way.
Clippers, Dallas. I go Clippers.
I will go Clippers
All
as
right.
well.
Let's go to the East. It's Philly against either Washington, Indiana. I'll go Philly there.
I'll go Philly.
I got Brooklyn sweeping Boston.
I'll take Brooklyn in 5.
I got Milwaukee in a 7-gamer against Miami.
I'm going to take Miami in 7.
Wow, you go with those Heat.
I just like that. I like the makeup
Dude,
of that team.
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised if Milwaukee beats them in 5. And I'll tell you what, they won that last year, the bubble, no fans. That's a young team. They're going to be like, oh my God, if there's fans here, what's the fan situation? I'm not sure. I know in Philly, it's going to be changing somewhere in like July. I think they're going to go to a full house. So,
well, I heard Utah, I think, is going to be the first one to go with a bigger, like 70%. Then the rest are going to follow.
Philly's game starting in a couple weeks here. Full capacity. You don't have to wear a mask if you don't want to.
Very nice.
For the Phillies. So I don't know what that means for the Sixers, though. All right. Knicks, Atlanta. I'm going to go with the Hawks.
And I'm going to take the Knicks in this one. I do know you're looking at Knicks and Hawks. They're both on the younger side,
They
Mike.
are.
But I think
Go
Randall,
with that defense. You like that Thibodeau.
I love it. I love the way that team's playing right now. And I love the addition of D Rose on that team late in games. I think it's an important piece.
I like that Trae Young. I feel like this is his time. These are the moments for him.
Well, he's the you want to call him the Steph Curry light?
Yeah, on the East Coast, East Side.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
we'll see.
All right, Todd Rank Report here on the Sports Bash. That was fun. These NBA playoffs should be a lot of fun to bounce back and forth, and we'll do it again next week here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, man.
All right, buddy. Have a good weekend.
All right, and the Rank Report here on the Sports Bash, of course, on a Thursday. Sports Bash brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse PHT. All right, plenty more to go to the top of the hour here on the Sports Bash. Stick around.
Mega Millions is giving you 515 million reasons to take a chance. That's a whole lot of millions. In Jersey, one mega chance could be all it takes. So take a chance on Mega Millions because anything can happen in Jersey.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
All right, Josh Hennig carrying you the rest of the way here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill here on the back end of the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN. Sports Bash being brought to you by Matt Black Kia. Matt Black Kia, they want to get you approved today. That's Matt Black Kia on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township. Visit them online at mattblackkia.com. Of course, shout out to everybody watching on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can comment on the show as you always do on the stream right there. Just follow at 973 ESPN. Also, for everybody listening on 973 ESPN FM and the 973 ESPN mobile app, the text board is open for you at 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. So just catch you guys up on some of the news and items that have happened so far today. We heard from Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen for pretty much the first time in any significant capacity and length since they were hired by the Eagles. And it's very clear that Jonathan Gannon is a guy that is really made for this job in Philadelphia. He's talking about he loves players who are smart. He loves players that are mean. He loves players that have a high motor. He's talking about how, he expects his cornerbacks to be smart before anything else. Just a lot of stuff that, I think Philadelphia fans love hearing. If you're a diehard Eagles fan, if you love football, you love, and I mean football. I don't mean, Madden football. I mean real football. Like, you're old enough to remember Jim Johnson defenses, or maybe you're old enough to remember Buddy Ryan defenses. Jonathan Gannon, for a guy his age, is kind of sounding like one of those guys. He's sounding like a guy that's got that little edge about him, that aggressiveness, that attitude, that mentality. For a guy who turns 39 years old before the start of the 2021 NFL season, him and Sirianni and Steichen sound like guys who are real football lifer guys. Sirianni is going to be 40 to start the season. Gannon's going to be 39. Shane Steichen, he's going to be 36. So you have a group of guys, they're all young relative to other NFL coaches, but they all seem to have the attitude. They all seem to have the mentality. And you got to like that. You got to be a fan of that for the Eagles, because at the end of the day, you want your football team to be able to go out there and have the kind of attitude, mentality. I talked with Adam Kaplan earlier about this on Football at 4 here on 97.3 ESPN, and that is Sirianni is trying to institute a culture. He's trying to work with the players. He's trying to get his hands on the steering wheel to drive this thing in the right direction. I am a huge, big-time believer in putting yourself in a position to make an impact as soon as possible with a new job. It doesn't matter what business you're in. It doesn't matter if you're a football coach. It doesn't matter if you're a radio show host like myself. It doesn't matter if you're someone who, I don't know, working at the local bank. I know the banks are apparently spiking up the pay per hour rate to entice more people to come take their jobs. But whatever your profession is, you want to walk in there, and after you feel things out, after you kind of figure out where everything is, you want to make an impact. You want to have a situation where you are making sure everyone knows that you are serious. Okay? You want to make a situation where you want to be legitimate and you want to be taken seriously. And people think you're a joke. And I think that after Nick Sirianni's first press conference, which I think at this point we all can dismiss that. First of all, it's a Zoom call. He gets kind of set up by Jeffrey Lurie, and Jeffrey Lurie decides to run away. And then the media decides to ask Sirianni a bunch of questions that should have been asked to Lurie and the Roseman. Sirianni didn't have an answer for. You know, it's just one of those deals where he was never going to win that situation. And now, months later, now that he has had time to adapt and adjust and acclimate to the job, he and the guys that he has hired so far have, I think, put on a very, very good first impression. And that is they are serious about having a fundamentals football team, a football team that cares about doing the little things, doing what it takes to be successful. And I said this yesterday on game night. I said today again on Football at 4 with Adam Kaplan. And I'll say it to you all right now listening to me on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City, and of course, all of you watching on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I'm looking right at you, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter watchers. Hear me out, radio listeners. You might not have known who Nick Sirianni was before he got this job. You might not have known who Jonathan Gannon or Shane Steichen is. But to have a couple guys come in here who are this serious about football to replace the only head coach who has ever won you a Super Bowl, consider me invested. I'm invested in what Sirianni, Jonathan Gannon, and Shane Steichen are bringing to the table. Because on one hand, people can say, yeah, sure. They're just saying what they're supposed to say. It's coach speak a little bit. Maybe it is. I'd rather, and it's just my opinion, I'd rather have my coach be consistent with the message than honestly go up there and sound like an idiot. Because how many times we have heard coaches try too hard and honestly turns into a mess. I'm not interested in that. Listen, Chip Kelly was really good at winning the press conference, but he was also good at being a condescending jerk. All right? There is a lot of people who I think when they first heard Nick Sirianni had a certain opinion about him, and now you listen to him and his coaching staff months later, I think it's fair to say you have a different opinion of him. Because these are football guys. These are football lifers. These are guys who they eat, drink, breathe, sleep, dream about football. Now, I'm not promising you that they're going to win anything, but I'm saying that at least you gave me some coaches. If you're going to replace Doug Peterson, if you're going to push out the only coach who ever won you a Super Bowl, if you're going to replace him with somebody, it might as well be this guy. And for Jonathan Gannon to get up there and say what he did today, it only pushes the point home. It only makes it even more interesting to see what happens next. Because when this team finally gets to training camp, and we finally get to see some preseason games, because by the way, we are having preseason games. I have never been excited to see a preseason game in my life until 2021. I don't know about you, but 2021 called, and they offer me NFL preseason games. I'm watching. I mean, I watch any kind of football I can get my hands on anyway. I'm that kind of guy. I love football that much. But you're offering me NFL preseason games? Let me tell you, I'm on board with that. I'm interested. I'm there. Now I got a new head coach and some new roster players. First round pick, Devonta Smith. I got a lot of pieces that interest me. So let me see that preseason football. Let me see you get ready for that week 1 of the season. The only thing that would make this better is the Eagles were on Hard Knocks this year. Like, I don't even think they've picked the Hard Knocks person yet, have they? I got to double check this. I'm looking it up right now. I don't think they've picked Hard Knocks. Let me see here. All right, it looks like they have a list of teams that are eligible for Hard Knocks. Okay, so the Eagles are not eligible for Hard Knocks because they fall under the 3 exceptions rule. So the exceptions are you do not have to be on Hard Knocks if you have a first-year head coach, if you had a playoff berth in the last 2 years, or if you've appeared on Hard Knocks in the last 10 years. So it looks like the Eagles would not be on the list. It looks like the list of Hard Knocks, that's a little disappointing. The Hard Knocks list consists of the Giants, the Panthers, the Cardinals, the Broncos, and the Cowboys. Selfishly, I want to see the Giants or the Cowboys. Maybe not so much the Cowboys, maybe more the Giants because of Joe Judge. I got a feeling that Mike McCarthy would be even more disliked by football people if he was on Hard Knocks. I mean, Mike McCarthy just comes off as a grumpy old man half the time. Now he's got that old man beard, and I mean, at least when he was clean shaven, he had the visual aesthetic of somebody who looked like he wasn't just a grumpy old man. He just looked like a football coach. Now he's got the old beard going on, and he just says things certain ways. He just looks like a grumpy old man. Talks to me. So I don't even know if I want the Cowboys or Hard Knocks. Scratch that. Give me the Giants. Give me crazy Joe Judge. Give me Dave Gettleman and his weird isms wandering around the facility. Yeah, I'll buy into that. I guess the Panthers would be a little bit interesting because, Sam Darnold, Matt Rule's an interesting guy, but they don't have a lot of juice with that roster or with that team like the Giants would. Broncos, it depends on the whole Aaron Rodgers thing. Obviously, if they acquire Rodgers, maybe that's what they're waiting for. Maybe they haven't announced the Hard Knocks team because they're waiting to see if the Broncos trade for Aaron Rodgers. Cardinals probably be interesting too. Kyler Murray, the addition of J.J. Watt in the offseason. So no Eagles, but there's some interesting options out there. If I had to rank the Hard Knocks teams, I would say I want it to be Giants are my number 1 pick. Cardinals would be number 2. Broncos are 3 with the caveat that they may or may not get Rodgers. So it's kind of how I look at the Hard Knocks. But I would have loved to see Hard Knocks with the Eagles. A little Nick Sirianni, a little training camp, Jalen Hurts, Ryan Kerrigan, the new Eagle, Devonta Smith, first-round pick. Man, it's going to be a fun football season. We're months away. But I'm already amped for it. Josh Hennick filling in for Mike Gill in the back end of the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. We will wrap up the Sports Bash coming up next, and you got me for another hour of game night from 6-7 tonight. NFL. Yeah. NBA insider Brandon Scoopy Robinson joins me coming up at 6:20 tonight. Yes, talk some NBA. The winner of tonight's game on 97.3 ESPN FM will play the 76ers. Coverage begins at 7:30. Pacers, Wizards. Winner goes on to play your Philadelphia 76ers. Josh Hennick here. Talk more about it right here on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. And we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can watch the show, The Sports Bash with Mike Gill, Game Night with Josh Hennick, and more. Just follow 97.3 ESPN on social media.
Attention New Jersey, Matt Blatt Nissan needs to replenish their pre-owned inventory. They will buy your vehicle for cash today. You heard right. Matt Blatt Nissan will buy your current vehicle for cash or trade it for top dollar and put 0 down payment, pay 0% interest, and get $2,500 off MSRP on every 2021 Nissan Murano in stock.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
All new loaded SV model 2021 Nissan Rogue. Lease just $239 per month with 0 security deposit. Plus our fast track checkout. Bring any vehicle and Matt Blatt Nissan will buy it for cash or pay top dollar for any trade in Egg Harbor Township next to Home Depot or online at mattblattnissan.com. David equity will be refinanced into new vehicle with qualifications exist. Not all will qualify. 0% APR financing based on 1667 per thousand borrowed. Offers can be combined. Murano VIN MC 101371. Road VIN MW 011224. 36 month 10,000 miles for your lease. Lease selling price $28,590. Call 877-289-6660 or go to mattblattnissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 5/31/21. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
Mega Millions is giving you 515 million reasons to take a chance. That's a whole lot of millions. In Jersey, one mega chance could be all it takes. So take a chance on Mega Millions because anything can happen in Jersey.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
Josh Hennig back here on the back end of the Sports Bash, final segment of the show here on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, and we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You got me for the next hour on Game Night coming up from 6 to 7 right here on 97.3 ESPN. You'll hear from Mike Gill again tomorrow here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget, this hour of the Sports Bash being brought to you by Matt Black Kia. Matt Black Kia wants to get you approved today. Matt Black Kia on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township. Visit them online at mattblackkia.com. By the way, for those who may or may not be interested in these things, viewership for the Lakers-Warriors game last night had an average viewership of just over 5.6 million. It's the most viewed NBA game on ESPN since the 2019 Western Conference Finals. Also the most viewed telecast across all television and every key demo last night. That means that more people watched Lakers-Warriors last night than anything else on television last night. Also, their peak audience was just over 6.1 million, which means that people were watching that instead of fill in the blank. Anything. It was up 190% viewership over any playing game during the bubble last year. So if anybody ever wondered if this is a star-driven league, if sports are a star-driven entity, if anybody had questions about that, oh man, the world just told you right there and there, right then and there. You know, I was having to talk about last year in the bubble about how, you know, they were the NBA finals when LeBron was on a game. The difference between the Western Conference games with LeBron and without LeBron was at least a couple million viewers, if not more. It was somewhere between $2 to $4 million. 2 to 4 million viewership difference when LeBron was playing in the game last year in the bubble than when he wasn't. It was ridiculous. And you can't argue with the fact that the NBA wants stars on their games. They need them because that's where they get the viewership. And you have to wonder, you know, not that the league is manipulating the situation, but I'm just putting it out there. If the NBA had their way tonight, they probably want the Wizards to win. Westbrook and Beal have way more star power than Domantas Sabonis and Malcolm Brogdon. Now, realistically, the Pacers, they had a better basketball team, but the Wizards had the bigger star power. So we'll get more into the Sixers' potential matchups coming up next on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Josh Hennig, filling in for Mike Gill on the back end of the Sports Bash. I'll catch you on the flip side.
Hey, everybody, it's Mike Gill for my friends over at PropSwap.com. And, of course, the PGA Championship is underway. It should be a great weekend of golf, which means it's a great time for prop swappers, Luke.
If the Masters was any indication of how busy we'll be this weekend, I think it should be a very popular time to be on the site.
Tell everybody why golf is such a